The American Le Mans Series summer break for the 24 Hours of Le Mans is over. Gone are the wide open spaces of Le Sarthe. Today on the tightest and one of the fastest circuits of the season, Lime Rock Park, the stretch run for the championships in 4 classes begins on speed. Set amongst the gorgeous Berkshire Mountains, this place is more like a summer retreat than a racetrack. It is simply a stunning venue. And today, Lime Rock Park here in Connecticut welcomes the American Le Mans Series for round 5 of the 2008 championship, the Northeast Grand Prix. Hi folks, Lee Diffie with you here at Lime Rock, and as you can see, I am not alone. There is a massive crowd of sports car enthusiasts here, and it is really great to see. For the majority of the competitors, the 7-week summer break is now over. However, for 22 of those drivers, they didn't get much of a break at all because they traveled to Le Mans, France for the 24-hour classic, and 4 of them came home winners. You saw it live here on Speed. Audi reaffirmed they still have the sports car to beat, winning an 8th Endurance Classic. In the wake of that victory, a driver shuffle leaves Emanuele Pirro, now teamed with Dindo Capello, who is fresh from his 3rd Le Mans win. David Brabham, on holiday from his Highcroft Acura ride, helped Aston Martin engineer a victory over the dominant Corvette squad. And in GT2, Risi Competizione hope they've turned a dismal season around with a resounding Le Mans win. Mika Salo hopes to ride the momentum of that victory with teammate Jamie Mello and defend their 2007 American Le Mans crown. And David Brabham has a taste for being out front because he's kept that winning streak and winning feeling going, not only capturing the LMP2 class pole here yesterday, but he got the overall pole in his Highcroft Acura in simply stunning fashion. Dropped as low as 9th, came up to get it.
P1, nice job, David.
It was Acura's 3rd pole, and it was David Brabham's 8th career pole. With more on DB, here's Brian Till.
Well, Lee, not only did David Brabham have a great qualifying run, he's really had a great first half of the season. David, you win at Long Beach in ALMS competition, then you win at Le Mans and the Aston Martin at GT1. It's a lot of momentum, a lot of confidence. When you come to a racetrack like Lime Rock that's been changed, how important is that confidence and momentum?
Well, I think in anything it's important for sure. I mean, I've had a great run, and I'm full of confidence and very clear-minded about what I want to do, and I think that's important for not just for me but for the whole team as well. It's a great momentum for the Patron Highcroft Racing, and obviously it's a bit of a home race here for Highcroft, and being on pole position with over 280 guests. There was a lot of pressure on me in qualifying to get the job done, but we got it done and we're ready for the race.
And the team was pumped. Congratulations. You talk about confidence, a lot of confidence on the part of the Audi team as well. They felt like they had a very good car at this racetrack. Indeed, Lucas Luhr took his Audi and ran it up to 3rd overall in qualifying, but a lot of his fast laps thrown out for shortcutting part of the new section of the corners back in the new uphill corner. Those laps thrown away. Lucas Luhr will find himself starting well back in the pack in 9th. That's the story from the front end of the grid, but there have been stories all throughout the paddock throughout the weekend, so let's check a little bit further back with Chris Neville.
Brian, there's been a big shakeup at AGR. Brian Herta and Christian Fittipaldi have been replaced by Frank Montagny and Marco Andretti this weekend. Montagny will finish out the season in the car and will likely see a blend of their IndyCar drivers throughout the year. Now this weekend, since Marco Andretti is also running the IndyCar race in Nashville, he wasn't able to fulfill the practice requirement. So Marco, the car's starting in the back today. What's the strategy to get up front?
Well, attack, basically. But we have to do it as sensibly as possible because obviously, some of the GT cars have a tough time seeing us, and we got to make sure the pass is 100% complete, or else it could be a bit dodgy. But we'll be pushing.
Well, this team also going with a little bit different tire strategy. They're running mediums all the way around, hopefully trying to make this race without having to change tires.
Remember, American Le Mans Series competition is all about 4 classes on the track at the same time. In GT1, we congratulate Ollie Gavin, who grabbed that class pole, while in GT2, a wonderful story for the Danbury, Connecticut-based Farnbacher Lowells Racing and the incredibly quick Dirk Werner. This is only their 5th American Le Mans Series race, and the young German was able to grab the class pole, a first for that team. They were chased all the way from the defending champions, Mick Asalo, who said he simply couldn't match that time. It is time now to go to Dorsey Schrader and Calvin Fish. And Calvin, on a weekend like this, there are so many great storylines.
Absolutely, Lee. It's a very exciting weekend here at Lime Rock. And of course, Dorsey, the biggest news is the fact we're running on this newly configured racetrack for the very first time. Talk us through it on the Yokohama track map.
The new Lime Rock Park has been completely refigured, repaved, 1.51 miles now, down from 1.54, 10 corners now instead of 7. The new area, here in the uphill, a series of corners designed to slow the cars down to second gear, as a matter of fact. They accelerate out of there quite hard, and they approach West Bend, where the new series of corners has been added again to slow the car down. Also a second gear corner. They rocket out of there down through the downhill, and of course that was the problem where the cars were going too fast. Overall, 2 positive notes, 2 new passing zones.
Well, Calvin, as you know, anytime you resurface a racetrack, it increases the grip, and with increased grip, increased corner speeds. You throw in a couple of new corners, and the drivers have got to learn it all over again. And early on, well, sometimes it doesn't go that well.
It really does, and I think to add pressure to those drivers here yesterday, this is a very short race weekend, only 2 days, and they only had 2 hours of practice time prior to qualifying yesterday. They need to learn the line. They also need to learn how do you play well with one another. And as you can see from the practice highlights, it didn't start off well. Within 5 minutes of practice opening, well, this is Romain Dumas in the P2 car making a move on David Murray, clips him. You see the move there. This is the result. David spears off the racetrack, major damage to the right side of that GT40. They didn't see any action for the rest of the race weekend. Now, Frank Montani clips Alex Figge, major off in the downhill, big damage to that race car. They didn't make qualifying. They will see green flag here this afternoon. So I think the key to success here today is you have to be smart. So stick with us. Think about this. The leader today, to see that checkered flag first, they will need to make between 150 and 200 passes. Who'll be patient enough? The Northeast Grand Prix here at Lime Rock on Speed is up next.
When there are so many different sporting events to compete with for the fans' attention, isn't it wonderful to see so many come and support sports car racing in the American Le Mans Series here in Connecticut? Now, as the full field will roll across at the top of your screen, let's meet our 4 respective pole sitters.
I'm David Brabham, and I'm from the same place you are, the planet Earth. I'm Scott Sharp from Jupiter, Florida.
Dindo Capello, Santo Stefano Belbo, Piemonte, Italy.
Emanuele Pirro from Rome, Italy.
My name is Oliver Gavin. I'm from Yardley Hastings, England.
I'm Olivier Beretta from Monaco, Monte Carlo.
Hello, my name is Dirk Werner. I'm from Germany.
Hi, I'm Richard Westbrook, and I'm from London, England.
We all get the feeling there'll be no shortage of close calls and very close racing today, and the odd incident here and there. And we will bring that to you via our onboards here today. And let's take a quick scroll through them before we go green in just 1 lap time. And we have a good variety of cars. Of course, the Audi, the 2 of Lucas Luhr and Marco Werner, who are on a hot streak this year in the P1 class, 3 wins to 1 against the sister car, the 16. What a weekend it is for Dyson Racing, the 15 of Lowe's Fernandez Racing. And there is Marco Andretti, bottom left of your screen, and also the 44, one of 3 Flying Lizard Porsches, and of course Darren Law and Seth Nyman in the 44. Are you ready, boys? I think it's going to be one of those days.
It's going to be action-packed, that's for sure. And David Brabham talking about confidence, Dorsey. How confident is Scott Sharp? He had that off at Salt Lake City, really hurt them in the driver's point. David's on his game. Sharpie knows this place like the back of his hand, back from the Trans Am days, as you know. But confidence is a big factor as we get ready for green.
It is, and I think it's going to be like the old Trans Am days. And these cars are really, really close together. We saw a lot of pushing and shoving. You said at the beginning of the show, they're going to have a little patience here, but that's not something race car drivers are known for.
This is a very special moment for Scott Sharp to be sitting in that Patron Highcroft Acura with a clear track ahead. He will see the green flag first. His father, Bob Sharp, and Bob Sharp Racing did so many miles around this circuit, and of course that close association with Hollywood actor Paul Newman. And for Scott Sharp personally, he's done so many miles, as you mentioned, Cal, around this track, but he hasn't raced here in 15 years. What a moment for Scott Sharp and that Acura P2 on the front row. It's an all Acura front row. Are we ready to race at Lime Rock? Yeah, the call is green, green, green.
Can the Audis get a jump here? One of the Audis down to the inside, trying to make some ground up. And look at that, the back of the pack there, the second Audi was getting loose.
Simon Pagenaud goes wide. It leaves room for one of the Penske Porsches. And he goes off. Pagenaud is off. And one of the Penske Porsches that looked like had taken the lead of the race. Now Scott Sharp wrestles it back.
Takes about 3 laps for these tires to come up to pressure and up to temperature, and it's not there yet. It's going to be ice skating time the rest of the way around.
Pagenaud recovered. It looks like it's Pat Long in second. He's been absolutely on his game here this weekend. This is the new section.
Second gear, they climb up out of there full speed now. 148 miles an hour as they get to this new section and over the curbs.
Hits the curb there. And the Audi takes advantage. Scott Sharp down to third.
Pat Long, well, not only did he out-qualify the sister car, he now leads this race at the end of lap 1. And the Dyson sweeping around the outside. That's Marino Franchitti. What a start. He has his brother Dario here this weekend, watching him and supporting him. Fabulous opening lap.
Look at these guys jockeying around for position there. What a start, Dorsey. We're seeing some action here, and we're only on lap 2.
And like I said, we found out during qualifying that these cars are really squirrely for about 2-3 laps. Hard to stick to the racetrack.
Dorsey, you were talking about tire temperatures and tire pressures. I checked with the Michelin guys, and they said it's actually going to take as much as 5 to 10 laps to get the pressures that they need. Temps will come up a little higher or a little quicker. Pressures will take a little bit longer. And for the boys down at Audi, they said we can't wait for this start. It's nice and slow. We relish it. We should be able to get them at the end of the straightaway. And you saw that Audi right there alongside the Porsche. Chris?
Brian, you talk about tire temperatures. Well, we talked about the conservative strategy by the AGR crew trying to do this whole race without having to change tires. The Lowe's team doing it a little bit different. They've got 3 softs on that car and just a medium on the left rear. So that team thinking we're going to have a lot of yellows today, and they want those softs for those little sprints in between the yellows. However, you have to remember, sometimes with the soft tires, they have more issues with pickup during the yellows.
Well, that is going to be the key there. Sorry, Lee, that is if you do stay on those softs, it will pick up the rubber when you run under caution. But here we see Romain Dumas, currently the championship leader in P2, down in 5th spot. We talk about patience. Typically, he doesn't show a lot. He's used to leading and winning races, Dorsey.
Yeah, he is that. You know, talking about these tires and so forth, let's talk about the asphalt. Just laid down about 2 weeks ago, and we were worrying about would it come up? Well, it has not come up all throughout the weekend, but this is the hottest day we've had since we've been here.
Marco Andretti started in 24th. He now runs 15th after just 2 laps. It's been a good, clear, clean run and fast. He told Chris Neville earlier, it's all about aggression, attack. I've got to get through this traffic. I've got to get this XM Satellite Acura up to the front of this field before I hand over to Frenchman Frank Montagny.
We went and spoke to him, Lee, after the morning warm-up. He and Frank Montagny were practicing their driver changes, and the last one they did, that was a ripper underneath 20 seconds. Big smiles, big high fives. He said you got to be patient, but you got to attack. Chris Dyson off the road. That's the 16 machine. Big weekend for those boys.
That's the left-hander, Calvin. He's lucky he didn't get stuck. It's kind of wet out there still. Rained a bunch last week. That is the turn 3.
As Chris recovers, this is what happened.
There's the end of Big Bend, now approaching the left-hander. I just got too deep to the outside, does an easy little 360 spin, catches the gear and goes on. That can be a swamp, Calvin.
And here we see a little bit of a battle there as we see Andretti making the move on Chris Dyson. I mean, last year we see Brian Herder make a similar move into that left-hander, drop the wheel on the right-hand side from the onboard. We couldn't tell if Chris actually dropped the right side wheels to cause that problem. It's very dusty offline, so the guys have to be careful.
And we've mentioned a couple of times, big weekend for Dyson. The reason why is the 25th anniversary of Dyson Racing and the 16 running the historic colours that his father raced, the Porsche 962-101 back in '85, and it looks fabulous, and that 962 is here on display this weekend, and the fans have been loving it.
You see Marco slicing through the GT traffic, one of the Corvettes there, and even though Marco didn't see any action here this weekend until this morning's warm-up, he did do a one-day test at Mid-Ohio last week on Monday, and boy, he immediately got up to speed this morning, third fastest in the morning warm-up.
Chris Dyson calling in and saying that handling's quite off. The engineer's getting back to him, telling him that the right rear tire is still not up to pressure, that he's going to have to watch it for a while.
American factory Porsche driver Patrick Long leads this race in his Penske Porsche over Emanuele Pirro in the Audi. So it's a P2 car leading over a Prototype 1 car, then Marino Franchitti is third. Then we join this battle here. We ride with Romain Dumas, the second Penske Porsche, and that is Scott Sharp immediately ahead.
This is the new West Bend. You see it into the downhill. This would have been so fast, Dorsey, with the resurfacing without that slowdown on the approach.
It's a $5 million upgrade of Lime Rock Park, and the place looks spectacular. That's why the crowds have come, and there's a young American leading this race. He's looking for his first win of the year, and that 6 car really needs it. Let's wish him well. Welcome back. We've got a new race leader. Yes, multi-time American Le Mans Series champion Emanuele Pirro and his new teammate Dindo Capello. They lead this race. It is Pirro behind the wheel. He executed the move on Patrick Long while we're in the break and has been able to skip away, so much so, opening up a gap that Lucas Luhr, his Audi teammate, has slotted into second. So P1 cars 1 and 2, Audi Sport North America 1-2.
Well, a lot of conjecture, Dorsey, this weekend with the new track configuration. Would it favour the P2 cars, the more nimble machines through that tight section, or the Audis? And I spoke to the Audi engineers, and they felt, well, the stop-and-go nature gives them the big launch, the big torque of that diesel, and that would be better. They were very close in qualifying. Lucas Luhr, as Brian said, had his qualifying time thrown out. Otherwise, he would have been on the second row. But once we get to racing, as we see all season long, those Audis are strong again.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of the equation right there, too, is that the traffic favors the Audi because it can recover its speed when it gets knocked off quicker.
Watch this, guys. This is the replay of Lucas Luhr on Patrick Long.
Down through that downhill section, you see traffic ahead. Had to have a big lift there. And this front straight, Lucas timed perfectly. Looks over at one of his old buddies and sparring mates in GT racing and moves ahead of him.
And that is classic Lime Rock racing. That is a driver looking ahead, realizing that the guy he's trying to pass is going to get held up, and so he backs off, gets a run at him on that downhill, and times to pass down the straightaway.
Report from race control that the 66 will be penalized. I'll get back to that in a moment. Chris, take it away.
Well, Mika Salo is in the Competizione Ferrari, right rear down. It sounds like the way he was complaining over the radio, very mad, saying that the Mazda got into him. So he was very mad. This team hopefully trying to turn this around after their win at Le Mans. They got that win at Le Mans, but before that, their best finish was 9th this year, so they were really hoping to turn things around with that momentum from France.
You get interrupted down there a little bit then, mate, did you?
Yeah, he was definitely on it getting out of here. He was angry on the radio.
Well, the key here is this short lap at Lime Rock, Dorsey. Any green flag stop, you immediately lose a lap, so this is going to be a big hole to climb their way out of.
Just want to finish a point, boys, on the 66, Simon Pagenaud. He will be black flagged for avoidable contact. No doubt he's trying to make up for lost ground.
You know, when we watch riding on the onboards and we see these guys slamming these cars across the new curbing, but one of the concerns I would have, one of the 2 cars spun here, the Audi, one of the concerns I would have would be tire damage due to hitting these curbs that hard.
Well, they put in these big tire bundles just inside the apexes.
You'll be able to get this. Good job.
Some radio communication between the team and Lucas here, just trying to calm him down, assess the situation. That's the key, Dorsey. When something happens, the driver needs to know, okay, where am I now? What do I need to do?
Take a look and see what happened to old Lucas here. It's down in the left-hander.
Got out in the dust, just like Chris Dyson, got turned around a little bit later in the corner this time. It's very dirty offline, as you can see. Sort of like that, not really a good stable grass along the edge of the track, Dorsey, that creates that dust. When the drivers kick the wheels in there, makes it very dirty offline.
Galvin, and talking to the teams, that's exactly what they said. If you're where the rubber is down, you're good. But the other thing that I learned from the Audi team is that they were really waiting to get in traffic. All the drivers on those cars said, once we get into traffic, these Audis are going to be so strong, because when we have to stop at these tighter corners that have been put in, will be able to leap off the corners and overtake the P2 cars, and that's exactly what they've done.
Look at this angry little bunch. The fight is on in GT2. Richard Westbrook is leading for Farnbacher Lowell's Racing as Romain Dumas comes through this GT2 traffic. But it's on, it's really on. The 45 of Jörg Bergmeister, the championship leader, is pushing hard. Look at this. Both Porsches, first and second. And it's Bergmeister with the outside line and Dumas in the yellow P2 prototype trying to find a way through.
Look at Dominic Farnbacher there in the third car in line. That Ferrari, he was thick in that battle. He didn't see Dumas trying to slice his way through in the faster P2 car.
And for Dumas trying to get through, these guys are racing for position. They don't have to pull over because he's in a prototype car. You just sit back there for a minute. Let us get it worked out.
There was a meeting last night, not an official drivers meeting, just a get together between the stewards and the drivers after all the incidents we saw in practice yesterday. See someone run wide there.
Bergmeister.
If he doesn't gain position, that is not a penalty, so we'll have to assess that situation. But they wanted to get all the drivers together. They said, we have to work better together, Dorsey. There are a lot of contact here yesterday. That wasn't going to fly today.
Did you see what happened there? The 46 got by Dominic Farnbacher. Bergmeister went around the old uphill and rejoined without improving his position. That was okay, but capitalizing on it was his teammate, Patrick Pilet, who got by Farnbacher.
And for Bergmeister, he was pushed out there. All that battling, there was no way for him to get through that corner. It's a one-at-a-time situation, and that is not a bad move, like you say, to go on the uphill and just not improve your position. It's okay.
Look at Richard Westbrook there. He's a Porsche factory driver. He's hanging on for dear life, locking up a right front brake there into the first corner, so he's feeling the heat.
It's great stuff in the GT2 battle, but you saw Dumas come up behind those guys, and one of the things that they said is these prototype drivers who used to drive GT2 cars actually have an advantage because they have a better understanding of what the GT2 drivers can and cannot do. No Name Straight is called a straightaway, but as you well know, guys, it's not straight at all.
Calvin, you saw the debris back there knocked off of one of the cars, I think, laying in that very tight chicane already.
This is a tough spot. If one of those GT2 cars gets tapped and pushed out there, that is going to be an immediate accident. So this is where you have to respect one another on the racetrack. It's very fast still in the downhill.
How costly was that spin for Lucas Luhr? It cost him 3 positions, second back to 5th. Simon Pagenaud, incidentally, has served his drive-through penalty. That's done. He's back out on track, dropped a couple of positions, and he is in 8th, forcing his way forward. But it's Emanuele Pirro who leads as we show you the contenders in GT2, and there is nothing between those top. As we mentioned earlier, a significant milestone for Dyson Racing. This is their home track, Lime Rock Park, and they're celebrating 25 years of racing under the banner of Dyson Racing in that 1985 Porsche 962. There he is, the man behind it all, Rob Dyson. And what a wonderful 25 years it has been. Dorsey, you drove for Rob Dyson and were part of that family for many years. That's a great weekend for them.
It is a great weekend for them, and when you look at the in my era, I should say, the 962 was the king of all, you know, and you look at the overall size of that car versus the new Porsche RS Spider, and you realize how different things really are, even though there's so much the same.
See the Lizards now in the thick of this battle here. As the overall leader of this race slices his way through. And here we see this battle up front. Still Westbrook, Westy as we call him, from England, leading the way in the Lowell's Farnbacher Porsche. What a tremendous qualifying run Dirk Werner had here yesterday. Cleared the field by nearly half a second. That is unbelievable on this short racetrack, showing the dominance of the car in qualifying trim. But in race trim, it's always different.
Two-time and defending Porsche Super Cup champion Richard Westbrook, and loving life at the front of this American Le Mans Series GT2 field. The overall running order at the moment, it's Pirro, look at this. Dramas here for the 44. Flying Lizard Porsche, while life is good for the other two, that is not so good for Seth Nyman, team principal.
He looks like he's got a radiator full too, Calvin, of grass and things, unless he can get that shaken off of there.
Yeah, he just got forced wide there coming out of Big Bend and got out in that dusty stuff again, and the track is very slippery. You can see the line almost there as you go through that new uphill section with the dust over to each side.
Well, we had large equipment on this racetrack, if you remember, just day before yesterday. Yesterday, the first day that these cars were able to get on the racetrack, no rubber down whatsoever.
Those are those apexes that the guys were literally driving right over yesterday. And a number of guys lost their fast laps, Lucas Luhr included. Number 7, Dumas, he had several laps taken away, so he could have started more towards the front. But look at the different classes here. You got the Acura and the Porsche battling. That's Andretti. He's now a full lap down to the overall leader. And I have to question this strategy. It's great to have Marco here this weekend, but to compromise your race by starting at the back of the pack on this short racetrack, I don't quite understand it. They had to have alternatives, I would have thought, to put in the second seat.
Boy, and look at the traffic jam. That's no name straightaway, no name. This is a new configuration. Oh, there's that 4G key.
Looks like a video game, Dorsey, but the consequences are more severe. There's no reset button for these boys. And look at that Corvette cutting through those corners, kicking the dust. And that's why when you get offline, you suddenly have zero grip. Andretti backing off, trying to time it to get on the front straightaway.
Yeah, the steering wheel doesn't just give you that little shake when you run into something, does it, in this thing? Andretti actually is falling back, guys. I've been watching him. I don't think the balance on the car is up to his liking. In traffic, he's just not able to commit.
Remember what Chris said. They started on a slightly harder tire combination to be able to double stint those, and that seems to be affecting his pace.
He is in 10th overall, and as the boys mentioned, a lap down. The number 20 of Marino Franchitti fighting with Lucas Luhr, who's on the comeback. So he's gained 1 position since that spin. He dropped as low as 5th, now back up to 4th. Romain Dumas will be the next one on his list as he fights his way through the GT2 traffic. Can Marino come back?
Watch that diesel kick in though, Dorsey. Massive torque there.
And then watch this bottleneck up here at this new section too, because you see the Corvette in front is using a lot more road. He's knocking up a lot of dirt and gravel and so forth. And that's something that this racetrack we saw yesterday gets really slippery if you keep doing that.
Well, they couldn't go about 5 minutes yesterday without an incident. They're now gone 24 minutes. We haven't seen a caution yet, so this is the good news.
Been a very clean opening stanza to this race. And so much so, too, for Marino Franchitti, who did not get as much time in that car before qualifying as he would have liked, but a good job nonetheless. The 15, the Lowe's Fernandez Acura for Luis Diaz, who started this race. We ride aboard with Scott Sharp.
Well, the Lowe's Fernandez team have had a somewhat frustrating start to this season. They've been very quick. Luis Diaz led at Salt Lake City, but not getting the results they're looking for. Of course, this season started off frustratingly by being second on the road and then being disqualified, so they're looking for better things here today.
Bit frustrating as well for Scott Sharp, guys, in the number 9 car. He was the contact that happened with Simon Pagenaud when Pagenaud got that avoidable contact penalty. Look for a little damage on the right rear of that number 9 Acura right now. Doesn't look to be anything more than cosmetic, but that right rear tire has got to be a bit of a concern for this team.
Calvin, you were talking about things being disappointing for the Lowe's car this thing. I was talking with manager Tom Anderson this weekend, and he said, you know, we've been so fast, but we just haven't raced well. So we really sat down, talked with the guys, talked to the team, and talked about really trying to come out here, making good decisions on the racetrack. We know we've got a quick car, but we've just got to put the whole program together. Now, they're definitely going aggressive with those tires, but and the yellows aren't falling their way right now, but they still think they're in good shape, and hopefully this thing will come their way, and they're keeping their nose clean.
And one of the news items since Salt Lake City over the past 7 weeks is Michel Jourdain, fellow Mexican, joining this team, and we'll see Michel at the Petit Le Mans later this year at Road Atlanta. And Calvin and I asked Adrian earlier this weekend, can we read anything into that, meaning perhaps retirement for Fernandez? And he said, no, absolutely not. But I really pushed the outer limits of fatigue at Sebring earlier this year, and I said to Luis Diaz and to Tom Anderson, I think we need a third driver. Michel's a great friend of mine, and we welcome him into the team.
Well, it's such a gamble to only go with 2 drivers for those 12-hour events, because if anything goes wrong, you get a cramp, you suddenly don't feel well on race day, suddenly you've got no backup. Michel Jourdain is a very fast... Wow, look at the traffic there, suddenly jam up Dorsey. That was a close one.
That was a very close one, and it's staying close. It's not over yet.
Looking for the way through up No Name Straight. You're riding with Scott Sharp, looking at Simon Pagenaud. Pagenaud has got by on Sharp. You saw that move on the front straight, and that was position 7. Diaz is the next one that Pagenaud's looking at. It's Pirot, Long, Dumas, Luhr, Franchitti, Diaz, Pagenaud, and Sharp, who we ride with now. Chris Dyson and Marco Andretti round out the top 10. Our 4 respective class leaders as they sit. On the surge, on the charge, and there is Richard Westbrook. And he's gained ground over the last lap or so, Cal.
He has. I mean, Westy was under a lot of pressure about 5 minutes ago. Now he's spread that gap, but it seems like now we've got into a clear racetrack. Bergmeister may be a little bit faster. Here you see Chris Dyson making the move through the GT2 traffic. He'll try and clear Westbrook down into turn 1.
Calvin, you talked about it before. Traffic is what's really making the difference on who's getting the speed around this racetrack. It's always been like that at Lime Rock.
Well, Westbrook wide. He got out in the dirt there, I think, Dorsey, and look at that. Bergmeister just slices through.
And that's exactly what we saw before. If you get past the center line, you get out there in the dirt, you see other cars dropping tires. We'll have another look at it. And he couldn't make the car turn. Watch, he's on the outside. Not much he can do about that. He turns in the normal line. But now, look, the car not responding. You cannot cut it down.
Pat Long there slides through in the yellow Penske Porsche there, and Westy was just stuck to the outside. Couldn't get it turned, as you said, Dorsey. Immediately, Bergmeister takes advantage and gets the lead.
That's one for Bergmeister to put up there in the old memory bank. You know, don't get out wide there. That won't work.
York had done a very good job over the previous 2 or 3 laps to breach what had grown to be about a second and a half margin.
Plus 2.5.
And now just pulling away, just driving away.
Well, you know, when you get out there like that, Lee, and you get in that situation, you're picking up a lot of debris and stuff. It takes a lap or two to get rid of it sometimes.
Stefan Pfeiffer there on the radio communication with York Bergmeister, giving him the gap. He's pulled a big lead there. Spoke to him yesterday. He said he really wasn't happy with the balance of the race car. Way too much understeer. They tried to make some changes. All they did then was loosen the car up coming off. So they've made some good changes for race trim now.
Well, the other good thing about York Bergmeister clearing that GT2 battle that he was in was I was talking to Tommy Sadler with the team. He said it is hot today, so hot in fact when they're running close together like that, the engines are beginning to overheat. So they're really going to have to think about how long they're going to run behind for somebody for so long, because you got to watch the temperatures, not only the track temperature but ambient, and it's all leading to overheating issues potentially.
Well, the thing is with this new blacktop, Dorsey, it'll give you about a 10-degree higher track temperature than when we come back here in a year, because the sun just bleaches that blacktop. But when it's just been laid down, it is very hot indeed. That'll play into that temperature reading.
For sure, they were seeing 135 degrees yesterday before the cars were on the track. But take a look here at what happens with the 46 on a pass attempt to the inside.
This is Patrick Pillay. He gets by former leader Richard Westbrook.
Same deal. This is where Westy just kept it together, and if you force the issue, you're off the road. So a little bit of dirt track in there, and let's see if he can recover.
You know, you saw him there, Calvin. He turned down, got into the corner pretty good, but he had too much speed on. Once he met the center part of the racetrack, there was no grip and there was no stopping.
You just got to feel that grip. When you're in the driver's seat, you just have that sensation, okay, how much steering input can I keep giving it? And then if you just try and be too aggressive, you're just going to go off the road.
Yep.
So GT2 order is Bergmeister. Westbrook has got second back. Pillay after running off, we just saw it. Here he is on screen, same corner, Big Ben. He's third, and that is the Ferrari, the Tafel Ferrari of young Dominic Farnbacher. And then the 61 is now the lead Risi Competizione Ferrari with Patrick Friesacker behind the wheel. Off is the 21 Panos, the new remodeled Panos, and boys, this looks good.
That new bodywork is really a lot better looking. Check out from the top of the roof all the way back to the back of the car. It's much longer, Calvin, than it used to be on the bodywork, and it's much more efficient too, I should say.
It does. It looks a bit like an Aston Martin at the back, but before they had a big separation between the rear screen of the greenhouse and the rear wing, and it really didn't allow good air to get to that rear wing, so it's cleaned up the drag factor, and they're now able to run that rear wing about 3 degrees lower and get the same downforce, so that's a twofer.
Right there, the Audi up on the curb makes contact with the 9 car side to side.
Well, that is Emanuele Pirro, race leader, who now puts 7th place Scott Sharp down a lap. So from pole position to now being a lap down, it's going to be a tough day ahead for the Patron Highcroft boys.
It was kind of a rude pass, if you would.
This Audi is hooked up. I mean, they're loving the grip that this new racetrack gives them. Last year, they really struggled with the concrete patches. A big, heavy car wouldn't change direction on the concrete patches, but with the extra grip from this blacktop, they're loving life right now in this race.
And, of course, Lime Rock always has been, always will be. Oh, and we get trouble here with the 11 car. It's a place they're always in traffic. Look at the damage to the roof of that thing, guys.
Wow, I wonder if it's just hit something and cracked the bodywork and has peeled it back. That looks ugly.
That is not good.
Happened down in the downhill section. That's about 140-mile-an-hour corner for the prototype, so any contact there will have dire consequences.
Like I was saying, Lime Rock, you're always in traffic, and if you have a car that recovers the speed like the Audi does, it's a huge advantage to have here.
Here we see again the prototypes trying to thread their way through this slower GT2 traffic.
This is second place Pat Long, the 6th, the yellow prototype, ahead of the 2 of Lucas Lewis. That's 2nd and 3rd overall. They're different class cars. Long is in the P2 prototype. Lucas Luhr, the P1 Audi.
Luhr had made his way past Patrick early in this race, then he had that quick spin, of course, is in recovery mode right here, and Luhr and Werner currently lead the P1 standings.
Romain Dumas, Penske teammate, is back in 4th. Then Marino Franchitti 5, Pagenaud is 6. Luis Diaz and Scott Sharp has dropped to 8. Dyson, and then Marco Andretti remains in 10th place. Whoa!
Someone off the road there in the downhill. Look at the dust it creates.
Well, I've done that before, Calvin. You come down that downhill, you're fully committed to the corner, and all of a sudden you see all of that dirt, and you don't know if there's something solid in it. You have no choice but to drive on through it, though.
Your competitors say you used to do it on purpose, Dorsey, when they are behind you, right?
I tried to stay out of there. I was afraid of that corner.
This is Romain Dumas, you ride with, looking at Lucas Luhr. Now they must pounce. This is one of the overtaking opportunities up the no-name straight and into the new uphill section.
Look how tight it gets. You heard the rumble across that apex curbing. Clearing the 008 Aston Martin. Great to see those boys back after the big crash at St. Pete.
And Calvin, my belief is all that crashing across the curbing is going to take a huge toll. It's early in this race as we see a 61 off.
Frisacker, Patrick Frisacker, after breaking into the top 5 in class, is now stationary and almost bogged.
That's the good news, because I spoke to the stewards just a few minutes before the green flag today. I said, where are the safe areas if a car stalls? They said there really aren't any around here. If we see someone stranded out on course, that's typically going to mean a full caution period.
Skip Barber's not going to like that. He just shoveled up his whole front yard right there. All new grass seed around here.
Let's rewind the clock just a moment to show you what happened to Lucas Luhr.
Through West Bend, then you see him around the outside. Won the GT2 car. He's wide. He's off.
Again, it's the same thing, Calvin. There's no grip. There's so much dirt on the outside of the racetrack. Once he got out there's no stopping it.
Guys, you know how aerodynamically advanced those Audis are, and I just checked in with the team, and it seems like Lucas Luhr has a problem with the front splitter on that Audi. It's been there since the very opening lap, so in addition to being slightly offline, he doesn't have the front downforce that he needs, and he's really struggling with that number 2 Audi right now.
Well, guys, the 61 is back up and running, but Patrick Frisacker saying it looked like the Taffel car had gotten into him, so another Ferrari on the racetrack hitting that car. He's back out in rain. The team said he's doing a great job with this car. This is the first year he's running GT cars. He's been all Formula car experience, been doing some testing for Ferrari, also testing the new A1 GP Ferrari that's going to run next year. So this young driver doing a great job in the GT car. The team just saying he's still learning it, still trying to get comfortable with how the car moves.
Speaking of moving, Dumas is moving just nicely. He is 4th overall at the moment and running well. We'll be back. More from Lime Rock. Exciting times ahead for the American Le Mans Series, in particular the Green Challenge. The ALMS is leading the way. They are showing the way. And this all kicks off at Petit Le Mans Road Atlanta later this year, early October, and we've got a lot more to tell you about the Green Challenge in this broadcast today. So look for that a little later on as we welcome you back to Speed's continuing coverage of round 5 of the American Le Mans Series, the Northeast Grand Prix. Lee Diffie, Calvin Fish, Dorsey Schrader, Chris Neville and Brian Till with you here in Connecticut, and you're watching a pretty solid display from Italian Emanuele Pirro. He is about to hand over to the most recent Le Mans 24-hour winner. Whoa, this is close here between Scott Sharp and Simon Pagenaud. Sharp is on a mission. That was for position as he moves up into 7th. How about that?
5th in class, 2 P1 cars ahead of him, of course. So Sharpie's on a recovery mode here. We heard about a potential penalty for Scott Sharp, and the team are fighting that vigorously so that they don't go a lap down here. As we talked about, on a short lap, any sort of drive-through will absolutely kill you. And now hearing that they've withdrawn that request for a stop-and-go penalty, he's like been giving a warning, I guess, like watch your P's and Q's. And here we see Pagenaud is in, turning it over to Gilles de Ferran. And this is where they struggled at Salt Lake City. The performance on track was excellent, and the team admitted we're a little bit rusty with these sports car stops. We've got to sharpen our act up here, so I'm sure John Anderson and the boys have been working hard.
They don't look like they're in a great deal of hurry, though, do they? I mean, with the driver change, both the drivers kind of just No big problem. Of course, they have more time because they have to do the fueling and get that completed before they do these tires or anything else.
Intersport team is in. Brian.
Clint Field taking over for John Field. These guys had a problem yesterday with the power plant, but they got it all sorted out. They had to change the motor. This team running well. They'll be running a second car starting at Mid-Ohio, so that'll be exciting for this team. In addition to having 2 cars to run, it'll also give them
Reset your fuel.
You hear the team saying reset your fuel. It'll also give them a lot more data by running 2 cars. The 87 also on pit road. Richard Westbrook climbing out, Dirk Werner climbing in. We understood that Westbrook had flat spotted the tires about 5 or 6 laps ago, so as soon as they got to the fuel window, they got in. Dirk Werner now having problems getting the number 87 fired. They had an oil pressure problem this morning in warm-up. All that seems to be fine now, but a little bit of a delay there on that pit stop, Lee.
Brian, let's take you back and show you what happened to Richard Westbrook. In fact, it's been a pretty entertaining and up and down opening stint for the British driver. Now he hands over to Werner, but let's take you back and show you.
This in the new part of the uphill, and boy, he just cuts right through there. Calvin did a lot of damage on that front end.
He's lucky he didn't damage a radiator. They are susceptible, the Porsches, to damage to those. They got 3 radiators up front. It's very easy to knock one of those ajar and crack the pipes there and get a leak. So he got away with one.
And that was almost a wreck. Remember, Wrecked premieres this Thursday here on Speed. And we're hearing there is a drama at DeFerrin Motorsports.
Yeah, Lee, this team came out so strong at Salt Lake with that 3rd place finish, but problems in the driver change here. Pit stop went great, however, trying to get DeFerrin in the car, they couldn't get the belts on properly, so they've been here for probably about a minute trying to get Gilles in the car and belted in, and now they're having problems starting the car. So they came out of the gate so strong back at Salt Lake, but problems here at Connecticut.
You see an electrical cord coming down, but you can't have any outside assistance. The car has to fire on its own, so they may be able to fire it up, turn it off. Hopefully it'll refire again there, but you can't have any auxiliary power to the car, Dorsey.
Now they're plugging in a computer download so they can see if they can find something on the computers about what's going on with this, but you saw them switching the switches on and off as if there's no fire back there to the starter motor.
We're having a look at the download now, see what's up.
Rumor in the paddock this weekend is that there will be a P1 Acura program for next year, and this team is the favorite to see the first car. So very much a rumor, no one's saying much.
The fuel's done still, that's fine. Stand there, and that was done like a minute ago.
Team is saying, Gilles, you can't start the car till the refueling is done. Gilles saying, I know that, but the refueling was finished about a minute ago. Why was there such a delay? Being told he could go. Of course, he refires the car from inside the cockpit.
On me first gear. It should be working. You think it's working? It should be working. Please to start it.
Not only a former Indy 500 winner, 2-time kart winner, but most recently the sporting director for Honda Formula One Racing. And now Gilles DeFerrin is released. Very early days for that program. Just its 2nd race, learning sports cars, both Gilles DeFerrin and Simon Pagenaud. Pagenaud very nearly put it on the pole, very similar to what Gilles did at Salt Lake City 7 weeks ago. So while we say it's early days, boy, are they showing how strong and how much potential they have.
These cars are so complex, and complex on the electronic end of things, Calvin, that when you come in and you have to shut that engine off for a pit stop, one of millions of different things can go wrong. You know, you have all sorts of breakers in there with the heat today and so forth, can overload and pop. I mean, it's frustrating as a driver to be there waiting on that fuel anyway, but then when you push the button and want to go, nothing happens.
And there we see one of the Ferraris off on the outside again, so they're having some struggles here today. It's number 61 again, Prix. So he's struggling. 4th trip off the racetrack is all camp, so we'll have to see what's going on there.
Usually at Lime Rock, when you get off the racetrack, you find something hard to hit. 4 times without hitting something. I think you better quit now.
And you talk about problems in pit lane. With some of these guys are coming from Le Mans, where you have the long lap, you then come to the short lap. Any blip on pit lane when it's green, you are going to go down a lap, and if you don't get it sorted out, I bet they went down at least 2 there with that problem.
Well, we talked about slowing up the racetrack with these 2 new corner complexes, but they still do 46-second lap. So, I mean, you're right. You have any problem, 46 seconds goes away in a heartbeat.
And when you average out the time, just to give you an example of how tight it is, the confines of Lime Rock Park in comparison to Le Mans, when you spread the field out, distance per car on the racetrack at Le Mans, it's one car every 800 odd feet. Here it's every 290 feet.
That's amazing. And here you see Romain Dumas. This is a championship day, I believe, for him. They have to show patience. They're used to leading. They're used to winning. When you're thick in the pack, Dorsey, on this racetrack, you can't get too aggressive. You can't get antsy.
No, you can't, because you knock a front end off or you have a flat tire or anything, you lose a lap like we talked about before because of the 46-second lap here. A lot of debris out on the racetrack, Calvin. I'm seeing pieces of car everywhere. I'm surprised that they haven't addressed that situation yet.
Here we see Lucas Luhr working his way through traffic. One thing we know for sure, if we stay green, the Audis will need to pit before those Penske Spiders. They only have 81 liters right now. The Penskes have 90.
Now a quick reminder that you can help choose Dyson Racing's greatest American Le Mans Series moments. Simply log on to AmericanLeMans.com and select your 3 favorite Dyson competition memories. There are plenty of them. Voting ends at midnight tonight. Just simply check out AmericanLeMans.com today. Up into a very good rhythm, and who would have guessed that we've almost gone a full hour of racing with no yellows. We'll be back. Race leader is in. Pirro out, Capello getting in. Brian.
Manuel Pirro not at all happy with this #1 Audi yesterday in qualifying. A lot of understeer. They changed to a higher downforce nose. They changed some camera settings on the front, but it seems to have come alive in these warm conditions today. Right now, Dindo Capello getting in. We have not seen Dindo in this car in the ALMS competition since Sebring. Remember, he and his teammates won that one. That was the Scotsman of Alan McNish and Tom Christensen. They took the victory there, and right now, Dindo Capello back on track.
Marvelous pit stop, and it was that sort of strategy that won Audi Le Mans this year. They were flawless for 24 hours there. They had to be with the pace of the Peugeot. We do hear a rumble that Peugeot may be over for Petit, so maybe the battle will recommence there. But Dindo Capello, 2-time LMP1 champion, back in the saddle. There's only 2 races in the LMS schedule for him to complete this year, so we expect to see him in the seat for a bit more this year over here in the States, which is great news. Always great to see a defending champion back here running the next season.
And the all-Italian lineup of Pirro and Capello. It's the first time that the 2 former Italian Super Touring champions are in the R10 together.
I tell you what, Pirro had a great rhythm. Oh, look at Dindo there. On the cold tires, nearly running off the road. You've got to be so careful until you get that tire temperature in and the tire pressure up as well. So that will have certainly got his attention. There you see him weaving, Lee, just trying to get some tire temperature into that car before he gets down to turn 1.
It's compounded even more because the racetrack's so darn dirty right now with everybody going off the road.
It was, and he got that left side in the dirt there through that West Bend section of the racetrack, and here comes Lucas Luhr. You see him lifting up. He's loosening those seat belts to be ready for a very fast driver change.
Marco Werner is standing by.
Right now, Lucas Luhr climbing out, Marco Werner climbing in. This team has won 3 times in the Prototype 1 class so far in 2008, 2 times overall, and they were hoping to get it done here, but the problems early on have really put them back. Damage to the right front of this Audi R10. I see it over on the right front splitter down. These cars so aero-dependent, as we talked about, that losing grip on the front end here on a new racetrack where there's not a lot of grip anyway in these dirty conditions is going to be a big detriment. The team has a new nose and splitter combination standing by, but it doesn't appear that they'll use it, blowing out the radiators right now. Full load of diesel fuel in. Car still up on jacks, and this is taking a while. They drop it. Marco Werner being held. Obviously some type of penalty now on the stop, adding a little bit of insult to the injury they've already sustained today. Visor up on one of the fuelers. And this is a huge, huge setback for the #2 team of Marco Werner and Lucas Luhr.
Of course, I highlighted back there, this part of the car right here, the splitter, you see the gap right there that is opened up, and that's putting air in underneath the car there.
There's not giving him the downforce, and as they said, when he gets in traffic, it's hurting him considerably. That's why he's been running wide, so they'll be a little frustrated, and the team will certainly be frustrated as to, oh, and there you see, we saw Dindo Capello struggle on cold tires. Werner immediately off the road, so understeer city with those big, heavy Audis when they're trying to get the tire temps out.
And of course, he was off the line on purpose, letting those other cars go by as he was trying to build up the speed, and it's dirty out there. We've seen that.
See the sparks there? They have these little rubbing blocks underneath the splitter so it doesn't get into the bodywork itself. That's designed that way, but those can certainly be worn through, and then you're into the carbon fiber itself.
We went out and watched the cars at the new section of the track yesterday, and Marco had a big spin at the new and the revised uphill section as we take you back and show you what happened to Marco Werner.
Here he is, I mean, just no grip. He gets past that center line and gets in the dirty part of the racetrack, and around it goes. Watch on board. I mean, his hands will turn, but this car will not.
There's no point in just cranking that steering wheel to the right. That would just make the grip even worse. You just have to ride it out there, try not to get too much damage to that splitter that's already damaged, and try and get back in the groove. So they had a very fast race car, but it hasn't been a smooth race for this car. The one car, however, has had a great run here today.
Let's talk GT1. The 4 is in. Brian.
Ollie Gavin climbing out, Olivier Beretta climbing in the number 4 Corvette. This Corvette team still licking their wounds after not taking the victory at Le Mans. They went so confident, but I talked to Doug Feehan earlier and he said, we learned so much and we are already set to begin to test some of those things that we learned while we were overseas. Right now, Beretta behind the wheel. They have won only once so far this year. The sister car has taken 3 victories in GT1 competition. Fueling done, now 4 new Michelins going on. Little contest later in the year at Road America between Ollie Gavin and Doug Feehan, the project manager. They're going to run the bicycle race at Road America, and they've laid down a lot of money on that bet as to who's going to win. The money will go to the Lance Armstrong Foundation. So they never stop competing on this Corvette team, and a lot of times between the driver and the crew.
Well, they're running the E85 fuel, and that just don't get the same fuel efficiency that regular gasoline does. So in fact, what that has happened now, we've had some adjustments there. They have more fuel going in the tank, but better flow rate, so it actually equalizes everything out. So there's no disadvantage in running the E85. And the Corvette camp in general is saying we're really now focused on Petite Le Mans. We want to win that green challenge. And certainly, as Doug Feehan said, they've really found some new avenues of development for the car since coming back from Le Mans. So you never stop learning, Dorsey, with a race car and what makes it go faster.
It's really inspired the team, the green challenge. You know, these guys are competitive guys, but I mean, that whole thing, the Corvette team is embraced completely with the ethanol E85, you know, trying to be the first team to really push the limits of oh, trouble here, big crash in front of us.
At the uphill, it's the Aston Martin, it's one of the Audis.
Dindo, look at the damage.
Big trouble here.
And you see him wave his hands there as if to say to the car who's involved
we have a broken car here, our car collision with the GT car. Dindo, the pits are closed, you need to stay out, you need to stay out.
Terry Borscheller in the 008 was the other car that you saw involved. And these Audis are built strong, but I'm not sure they can fix this one. Look at the right rear suspension completely hanging off.
One thing you learn at this racetrack, look way out in front of you, and I saw that crash as it was happening. Right rear corner's damaged really badly. I don't know if they can fix it, Calvin, but it's going to be a long way.
Think about the debris, though, Dorsey. He's trailing around this racetrack. I mean, it's drivable. They're saying pit lane is closed. He needs to stay out.
Straight to the truck, please.
Oh, you hear it right
they've changed the call. They've seen the damage on the monitor. Straight to the truck. That means more guys can jump on this car. They're really not in the thick of the championship battle. Typically, what you're trying to do at this stage is think about 70% race distance to score points.
Thing is crabbing sideways. Remember Alan McNish several years ago at Le Mans in that Audi Velox R8. He had to crab it all the way back. It was way down in Mulsanne corner where he went off, and he had to get it back, and Capello has done a similar job, but a much shorter distance to get it back to the paddock and back to the transporter where they can do work on that car. And here is the stranded Bell Motorsports Aston of Terry Borscheller.
What a disaster. I mean, they put in 4,000 man-hours to get this car fixed after that massive shunt at St. Petersburg. Had another off in the first practice session. Don't have a lot of spares on board, and this is a devastating blow to this team who have really done a tremendous job. Here we see the replay, Dors.
I'm sorry. Oh, there's more involved. One of the Ferraris were also involved in that.
wonder if he pushed his way down the inside of the Aston Martin and forced him out wide.
I believe that's exactly what did happen, Calvin. I think he had a little help. Terry Borscheller did. Of course, Dindo doesn't know about that, so he's pretty mad at Terry right now.
Here's the view up ahead. This is from Dumas.
Some dust and carnage everywhere. Difficult to see. There you see over to the left-hand side the Ferrari that was involved there.
And I'm agreeing with you, Calvin. I'm almost sure that Ferrari got in the side of Borscheller, which put him into the Audi of Dindo Capello.
That is so frustrating. Dindo Capello and Pirro had a very fast race car. I would say have to be the favorites before this incident to maybe see the win here today. Let's take another look.
Well, now
I don't know. Now it doesn't look like the Ferrari was there.
Maybe not. I mean, the Ferrari might be an innocent bystander to the whole thing.
But, you know, Dindo was to the left. You don't want to be on the left side there for that corner.
So the Penske Porsches make the most of this yellow, and Romain Dumas comes in, and Timo Bernard climbing aboard the P2 points leaders. Brian?
Timo Bernard taking over. A lot of rubber marks on the left front of this Penske Porsche as it sits here, showing the scars of battle already on this very tight Lime Rock circuit. This car had been very quick, but Dumas just not able to get the qualifying position that he wanted, and really hasn't had the speed throughout this race. Although they're quick, they're not fast enough, Lee.
And when that caution came out, sure, Acura dominated qualifying, but it's been Porsche in this race since the Audi stopped, since the #1 Audi is now heavily damaged, stopped. Porsche 1, 2, 3 with Pat Long, Romain Dumas, and then Frank Kitty. However, that has all changed now with Bernard in and Dyson in. Summer is here, so it's time to put some sizzle into your wardrobe and look like Dorsey or Calvin with some speed swag. All you have to do is visit the Speed store online today and get 20 to 50% off in all stock styles, t-shirts, hats, etc. Log on to speedtv.com. Keyword is swag, some speed swag. We welcome you back, and it's time now to talk about something that Corvette Racing are very excited about, and the entire American Le Mans Series family, working in conjunction with the U.S. Department of Energy, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, and SAE International. The American Le Mans Series will implement its first ever Green Challenge at one of its signature events later this year. We've mentioned earlier Petit Le Mans. Now, with the competitors racing in the Green Challenge, they will be judged on 3 critical criteria, and that's performance, environmental impact, and fuel efficiency. And as you can see there, we get a little more specific with as far as energy used, energy per mile, the amount of greenhouse gases emitted, and the amount of petroleum displaced. This is fascinating stuff, and the American Le Mans Series is certainly leading the way. And Corvette Racing, as we heard a little earlier, they are very passionate about this, and they're incredibly determined to win it in 2009.
This green challenge that they put together for Petit Le Mans is going to be very exciting. I mean, we're going to go after it. We want to win that thing because it does. It's another competition, and you know, we wouldn't be in racing if we weren't competitive.
We considered ourselves to be leaders in this whole green thing. Obviously, the first ones from a factory perspective to choose to use E85 to run with it. Now, the challenge in and of itself now provides a technical challenge to our engineers. We've already met the challenge of having it work in the car. Now, how do you meet all the economy standards and still win? So it's a challenge for everybody. It's been a lot of fun. We're really looking forward to it because we think we got a darn good chance of winning.
Now remember, that kicks off again at Petit Le Mans, Road Atlanta, later this year in October, but in 2009 it will include all series events. So the American Le Mans Series going green, very serious about making a difference with motor racing and leading the way. While we're in the break, there was plenty of activity on pit road. Brian, take it away.
Guys, during that last round of pit stops, we saw the 7 come to pit road, but the 6 did not until a lap later. That cost them considerable track position. I went and asked Roger Penske why, and he gave me a very stern answer. And he said, because the officials didn't tell us pit lane was open until after Patrick was already by, and that is inexcusable. A lot of times the officials get chewed on down here, but the captain, one of the best of them doing the chewing today, Lee.
Look at that. Look how heated Roger is.
Yeah, he's a very passionate man, but you don't normally see that sort of emotion from Roger Penske. He is upset. They had the lead of this motor race. Now they're back to third.
Chris, what did you see at your end?
Well, guys, the Andretti green car did come in, and Frank Montani behind the wheel now, but that team struggling to try and get back on the lead lap, especially with this caution. And the car a bit damaged, looking at some damage up on the nose. The side skirts on the splitter were damaged, so that's definitely going to upset the balance of the car. Now, one of the big problems why they went back, the car is not slow, it's just when we came to green with Marco all the way in the back of the pack, there was a massive gap between the GT1 cars and the GT2 cars. The Corvettes were essentially at the start-finish line with the GT2 cars coming down the hill, and we know Marco was behind the GT2 cars. So when he came across the stripe, essentially the leaders were all the way over in turn 2, about a third of a lap ahead of him. Now further back in the 15 car, the Lowe's machine, Adrian Fernandez behind the wheel. Luis Diaz came in right as the caution came out. So that team is a little bit off out of queue right now. It looks like he might get a wave by here, which will put him back behind the Porsches that are leading overall. But that car looks absolutely perfect. Tom Anderson stressed to me earlier today that the team had to be absolutely perfect and make sure none of the dive planes or the side skirts got upset on that car. That car looks absolutely perfect. That team hoping to charge in the second half of this race.
Well, Chris, you talk about aerodynamics. David Brabham took the opportunity under caution to come back to pit road. They topped that Acura off with fuel, but the other thing they did was they replaced the rear end and the rear wing assembly. A lot of damage after that contact early in the race with the number 66 car to the rear bodywork. And once again, these prototypes so aerodynamic dependent, they need every advantage that they can. So they came in, did a quick repair, and David Brabham back on track. Probably one of the quickest, I'd say, probably $50,000 repairs after replacing that whole rear end assembly there, guys. David Brabham back on track, and it should be a very fast Acura.
We need to quickly leave Lime Rock for a break. When we come back, hopefully we'll go racing, and we've got a special guest. We'll tell you about that in just a moment. We're back on a beautiful day here in Connecticut. What a crowd. What a crowd at Lime Rock enjoying this. If you've just joined us, the reason why we're under our one and only full course yellow right there at the new uphill section, quite a significant crash between Dindo Capello and Terry Borchella. One of the Ricci Ferraris was involved, but have a look at this.
Calvin, the 3 cars are involved. You see right there, Dindo Capello is on outside on the Audi. You see Terry Borchella, who's turned around backwards, and of course the Ferrari went on. We don't know yet. Let's see if we can make any sense of it all.
Dindo was very frustrated afterwards. Chris Dyson's right there in the middle, but Dindo was very frustrated, but you would not be on the left side trying to make a move. Let's look ahead now, see if we can see where the Audi goes. Oh, he touches him.
He got in, he got into Borchella.
Yeah, he did. Dindo tried to get back over on line, and that's why they looked like they were reversed in terms of track position, but he did tag the left rear of Dindo, but you can't just evaporate. You've got to leave these guys some room, and Dindo certainly put the squeeze on him.
And that was at one of the new sections of this circuit, Dorse. The new uphill section. So much gone on here over the past little while. It's been an intense period. Let's hear more from the man, the legend behind it all, Skip Barber.
We started by repaving the entire track as it existed. We call it Classic Lime Rock. And then we built 2, I think, very interesting optional corners, an optional uphill and an optional west bend. And we're running both of them this weekend. And I think they're going to really increase the passing opportunities. We closed for June. We had 31 days. We joked that we did 90 days work in 30 days, but I think we did. Moved a huge amount of earth. You know, all the curbs are new, the Armco's all new, building berms for spectators, seating the whole place, and we had the rainiest June on record, and that really, you know, I'm not standing on great grass because of that.
Hats off to everybody involved, because that was a massive job, a massive project, and they got it done in a very short period of time. So we are still under yellow. We'll go racing very soon when we come back on the other side of this break. A man who's enjoying retirement, walking the dog, going to the pub. When we come back, sports car legend James Weaver is with us here on Speed to talk American Le Mans Series retirement and plenty more. You're watching the American Le Mans Series on Speed, the Northeast Grand Prix, and we are moments away from going back to racing. Round 5 of the 2008 American Le Mans Series It is the 25th anniversary of Dyson Racing. We've got James Weaver with us. He'll be commentating with us in just a moment. First, an update from the pits. Here's Brian.
Just checked in on the #1 Audi, and they not only had some suspension work, but also the right side manifold. They think they can get it done in 35 minutes, and they're trying to get back out to get their 70%.
Brian, the Tafel car, the 71, was just in trying to do a driver change. Dominic Farnbacher getting out. Dirk Mueller trying to get behind the wheel, but major damage to the left side door. So they had to do the driver change through the right side door. They couldn't get the driver's door open. Pretty surprised that ALMS is going to let him go out without being able to get that driver's side door open.
That is a concern, because if they were in a wreck, Dorsey, suddenly you could have a big problem. Here we get ready for the green.
Ready to go. Watch for the green. There it is. Timo Bernard leads this field away. Butch Leitzinger, Guy Smith, 2 and 3. And then David Brabham is 4th, but it's Bernard who leads.
Chris Dyson around the outside with good run going right here.
Got to be careful, though. We've seen other cars fall foul of the dusty racetrack there. There's not much grip there to work with.
Guy Smith we ride with here. Pushing hard, remember, an overall Le Mans 24-hour win in the Bentley. He knows what he's doing and pushing hard.
That was Guy Smith, as you said. And I was surprised he went out there, too, because this racetrack has been really dirty on the outside edges.
The savior here is a lot of these boys have got fresh tires on, which means they're cold, so they're not going to pick up the rubber, the little balls of rubber that form around the outside of the racetrack under caution. So that's a better scenario than if you stay out on the hot tires.
Watch for Frank Montagny in the XM Satellite Andretti Green Racing Acura. He is the first car a lap down. He's in 7th overall. Here he is trying to work his way through traffic as we say, welcome James Weaver. Great to see you back in America.
Well, thank you very much. It's lovely to be here.
What about seeing these Dyson boys running well here today? It's a big day for Rob and the whole family, and I know he's got you, Pat Smith, his old crew chief, here this weekend. Just a big day, a lot of celebration, I'm sure.
Absolutely, and if the Dyson guys could get on the podium, that'd be really put the icing on the cake.
Now, we saw you leave us, James, at the end of '06 at Laguna Seca. You didn't tell anyone about it. We were shocked to know that you weren't coming back. Had you made that decision a long time before, or was it a spur-of-the-moment thing?
I've been thinking about it since the start of the year and mentioned it to Rob, and we were driving into the track on race morning at Atlanta and had a chat with Rob and said, look, I'm sorry, I think I've reached my sell-by date. And, he said, well, okay, that's fine. And we had a nice chat, and that was that.
But sell-by date, mate, you were fastest at Road Atlanta that very day, and then you went on to lead the race at Laguna. Is it good to walk away on top, or is it tougher?
It was tough, because I think I could have done another year, but my eyesight was just starting to go, and I still don't need glasses, but you could just tell that I'd gone over the top, and Rob had been so generous to me. I didn't want to let this team down when I knew I was nosing over the top of my game.
Well, I thought when you come back here, you'd put on the 10 or 15 pounds that is normal when you quit driving. Here you are, fit as a fiddle. It makes me aggravated.
Well, it's very nice of you, Dorsey, but I actually drink less beer now. I'm not racing than I did.
Not as much stress now, is it?
Well, it's a great run so far for Dyson. 2nd and 3rd. Again, it's Timo Bernard leading, and then Butch Leitzinger, Guy Smith, and a little further back, check it out, Sasha Masson defending from pole sitter David Brabham.
Well, these two cars made an extra pit stop under that caution to top up with fuel, so if we stay green, these guys will be able to go a little bit further, but I think it's too much of a stretch here with an hour and 16 left to make it without needing more fuel today. Normally these guys will run right about an hour and 5, so that's a bit too far to go unless you get help from caution.
Well, what's amazing is that they made 71 laps before that first caution. We never would have expected that, seeing what we saw yesterday with all the banging around that there were in qualifying and practice.
James, what are your impressions of the changes to the racetrack? You haven't been around it in a race car, but I know you've been out there watching the corners.
Well, I'm probably actually the wrong person to ask, because I'm a huge Lime Rock Park fan. I think the original track is absolutely spot on. If it was me, I wouldn't have changed anything. I'd just leave the road alone and work on the runoff areas.
Look at the teammates here. Guy Smith on Butch Leitzinger. Thought about it, not quite close enough down into Big Bend.
You know these two guys very well, James. What do they both bring to the table? What are their good points?
Well, just look at Butch scything through there. I mean, Butch is an absolute star. I used to love driving with him. And that chop he gave on Guy, absolutely perfect. He could be his teammate.
Wouldn't have expected nothing less, right?
Quite right, too.
Frank Montagny shadowing in the background, trying to work his way up to Timo Bernard and get that Andretti Green machine on the lead lap. The yellow prototype further back is Sasha Masson defending P2 race winner. He won here last year with the now Penske IndyCar driver, Ryan Briscoe. Then back to David Brabham and Adrian Fernandez, 6th overall, 6th in class. The lead P1 car is Marco Werner down in 8th. As we go to the break, that's what it looks like overall and in P2. Good stuff here at Lime Rock Park. Beautiful day to be spectating. Great day to be racing. We are back at Lime Rock, back up to full green flag racing. And a quick reminder about the Green Challenge that will kick off later this year at Petit Le Mans and then into the full season 2009. But already at the moment, 4 cars in this field using the cellulosic E85 fuel, alternative fuel, produced from biomass, and the 007 Aston Martin, the 37. And problems here for Guy Smith. He was involved in a fierce battle with David Brabham in the Patron Highcroft Acura. What has gone down here?
Okay. Saw debris over there, Calvin, before where this car's sitting, so you know that there's been contact somewhere with another car.
It's so tough, and there you would assume is the contact, the 44 car.
Darren Law.
And that's lost its radiator, so we've got a racetrack now completely full of coolant.
That's the next corner, Dorsey. That's West Bend where Darren has pulled off, I believe. So you'd have to assume that was the situation. It's just threading the needle. There's really only room for one car once you get to the apex area of these new sections. And look at the debris scattered. What a disappointment for Guy Smith. Things looking good. Right in the thick of this battle. Podium finish, a definite possibility here today. Butch Likas Singer still runs second. There he is.
So the new uphill here at Lime Rock Park proving to be the hot spot.
Well, you're breaking down from really high speed and funneling into what is now a 1 car at a time where it used to have been 2. We'll take a look on a replay and you probably get a better idea.
Here it is. There you see Guy, and he's already took. Wow.
Same as Capello.
Yeah, it's like he's trying to get back over online again, and he had definitely not cleared Darren.
And this is a mistake the prototype drivers have been making. Take a look at him here for some. Let's listen.
What do you think, James? This comes over online, it looks like.
Yeah, I remember in the old days there used to be a slight kink there, and it's very easy to make the mistake. But I think where the track is now, it actually runs straight.
And it's just one of the things that GT cars cannot disappear, so you have to give them room. You have to run the shallow angle into the corner and allow that GT car to stay on the outside. And this is very similar to what we believe happened with Capello and Terry Borchella. Guy Smith out of the car, he'll be very frustrated. Didn't start off the weekend well in terms of setup. They said that they owned the keys to this racetrack. Well, guess what? They needed a new lock because this place is different.
Let's take a look from the car of Guy Smith, the Dyson Porsche. Here we go. Look for the Porsche 911 of Darren Law to come into view. It'll be right of your screen.
Yeah, he just wasn't clear of him. I mean, he tried to move it. I mean, that angle didn't give the best view of what actually happened. Also, I think on the other one we could see he tried to sneak over to the left and hadn't cleared Darren. And again, these prototypes slow a lot quicker than the GT cars. James, maybe we'll actually go to a break and we'll be right back and talk about that.
Darren Law thinking about what could have been. And that is a tough one for one of the 3 Flying Lizard Porsches. We're back in the flatbed there for Guy Smith's Dyson Porsche, and that was a tough deal. Pit stops are happening right now. Let's go to the lane.
Adrian Fernandez bringing the 15 Lowe's machine to pit lane, doing fuel and tires. Pretty surprised that they're going to do tires here. The team's saying that they can go the distance now. They didn't have too many laps on those tires, so I'm thinking they're going with a very soft tires for this final hour.
Well, I think that's a great call. They had poor track position, but they were on the lead laps. When you're at the back of the pack, you can roll the dice a little bit. It doesn't hurt you too much. Yes, there's going to be more cars between them and the other leaders to thread their way through, but I think it's a good call. If we're starting to see some cautions now, Dorsey, like we expected with the GT cars and the prototypes trying to give each other room, but if this thing does go back to the type of racing that we saw at the beginning of the event, going green, that will really play into the hands of Adrian Fernandez.
And as you see the sole remaining Dyson Porsche on screen, again, for those of you just joining us, we're celebrating Dyson Racing's 25th anniversary. We have James Weaver, former team driver, in the booth with us right here, and team owner Rob Dyson, his family. They've got over 150 guests here celebrating. It truly is a significant occasion.
Well, I think when someone says you've been doing something for 25 years, no matter what it is, it's kind of a milestone. It really has put me in a position of starting to reflect back as to how we started, and starting with a couple of guys and a Pontiac Firebird, and off we went and did a bunch of professional races in a truck that was 32 feet long. And now we've got 2 trucks, full complement of people at the racetrack are probably 35, 4 drivers. It's just remarkable. I mean, it's when I think back on it, it's just staggering.
From the time I can remember, my dad was always working on a race car. When they first started racing, and really in amateur racing, the cars were run out of our backyard garage, basically. And I used to wake up from my naps to the sound of them actually checking the timing. I can remember really fond, strong memories as a child being out at Lime Rock. I can remember coming here in 1985 when we won with the 962 first time out. It was just such an amazing thing to go out and do that in the first outing. I don't think I appreciated it at the time, but you know, I was 7 years old, so how could you?
It doesn't seem like it was that long ago. And, you know, it's not that I'm getting older, but my kids are getting older. The most important thing is what we found is that we just never stopped. We understood, and I keep telling my guys, that when we roll in a track in the morning, nobody has won the race. And what I want to make sure is that if we don't win it, the guys that do had to work as hard or harder than we did.
I think the team really reflects Rob's character as a man. I mean, Rob's a very, you know, he's a wonderful, charismatic leader, very decent man, fantastic old school values, and that was very much how his team is, and it was, and it's been like that, you know, for 25 years.
Well, it's great to see that this heritage in sports car racing is being celebrated here today, James. And you've been around the block a few times. I mean, it must really put a lump in your throat to sort of like see some of the old faces back here this weekend. And talk about Rob Dyson, the team being sort of like a small independent team, and now where this sport has gone to, you really need the factory involvement. Is that a difficult transition for a team like Rob's?
Yes, absolutely, because the resources that Porsche or Honda or Audi have, for example, are absolutely enormous, and if you want to win, you've got to take advantage of that. But the advantage Rob's teams have is that there's one boss. If you want to know what to do or what's happening, you just speak to the governor. And so he can run a very, very tight ship and always make the most of the resources available.
How things have changed. So Rob has a fabulous story that he shares, and said that he and Pat Smith used to come here way back in the day with his Datsun 510, and you could drive around Lime Rock for $12 or $14, but if you came after 4 in the afternoon, you could drive for as long as you liked for $6.
I actually met Rob driving I had a Datsun 510 as well in 1976, so our relationship goes all the way back to there, and Rob's been at the top of the game ever since.
Things have certainly changed in 25 years, but one thing that hasn't is the desire and the passion to win from the small team from Poughkeepsie, New York. Dyson Racing, not too far away again. Showing you a replay of what happened. Look up ahead. You ride with David Brabham. You're looking at Guy Smith and Darren Law on the left. Watch what happens. Bang. And that is the reason why we are under our second full course caution of the day. But this very healthy crowd are not going anywhere. They are very keen to see more racing. And a quick reminder about the exclusive video content from American Le Mans Series and SpeedTV.com. It's the most comprehensive video coverage in season history, both on and off the track. And fan video submissions are always welcome. More from Lime Rock when we come back. Speed Channel welcomes you back to the Northeast Grand Prix. Speed's coverage continues here, and we are very close to going back to racing after this second full course caution. And Michelin is a tyre manufacturer that has enjoyed enormous success in the American Le Mans Series, and with a Michelin tyre tip, here's Brian Till.
Well, Lee, they've actually enjoyed enormous success all around the globe. As a matter of fact, this year at the Le Mans 24 Hours, they won their 11th Le Mans 24 Hours straight, but they did it because they have a lot of data and they know how to make a tire for there. But when they came to Lime Rock this year, they didn't have that data, a brand new racing surface and a lot of new corners on this racetrack, so they had to learn. Well, they've got 12 teams and 20 cars to learn from, so they gathered all that data up throughout the weekend, and the Michelin tire engineers make their decisions and suggestions as to what tires the team should run. They've got a lot of tires back here. Expect to see split strategies. We've already talked about that. They thought it might be abrasive enough to run hard compound tires on the left and mediums on the right, but what we've seen is mediums on the left of some of these cars, soft compounds on the right, sometimes teams even saving one set of softs for that last go at the checkered flag. Lee?
And have a look at this, Brian. A very pleasant sight for Audi fans and the Audi team. Dindo Capello in the one car back on pit lane. Was complaining of some clutch issues coming over from the transporter back to the lane. And whether they've solved that or not, we don't know.
Getting a report that the...
Don't let him get out of the box.
Stop
in the pit lane. Stop in the pit lane.
Clutch problem still exists on the #1 car, but once he gets out there and running, he doesn't need that clutch anyway.
Well, there may have been some confusion there, because it seemed that the radio communication between the team members was don't let him go, and Dindo's gone. So stop in the box. Box means the pit box itself right in front of the crew, so something's amiss. They also had some fuel pump issues yesterday with both cars, which they seem to be on top of here in the race. That's the least of their problems right now.
Set to go, multi-time series champion Timo Bernard leads this race, and we'll see the green flag first. It flies. Let's go racing at Lime Rock. Once again, look at Brabham on the inside, Dorsey.
That's what I was about to say. Watch for David Brabham wanting to get this lap back. He needs to do it now.
He is there in third place. He's chasing Butch Leitzinger. And Frank Montagny is the one in search of getting that lap back. 1, 2, 3. Bernard, Leitzinger, Brabham.
Brabham very aggressive, and the different setups will come in quicker than others, so we'll have to see. The Penske looks good out front. Here comes Brabham. Can he make a move on Butch Leitzinger? This is the problem spot.
Brabham has got his lap back, boys. My mistake there. He is on the lead lap, so he's going for broke now.
Yes, the fourth car in shot is Frank Montagny. He is down a lap. He's trying to make good there, but this is where the battle is for second. They cannot afford to let Bernard get away.
They can't, and that Acura chassis has incredible downforce. It seems to have the edge right now at this stage of the season over the Porsches in terms of high downforce corners. The really fast one on that front straightaway, but that will have an effect down into the brakes as well. If you've got more downforce there, it'll give you better braking ability.
And maybe this is a lesson, James, you might like to comment on this. Maybe this is a lesson for the younger drivers in the series. David Brabham told you and I yesterday, Cal, that everyone was getting caught up with, oh, I like this change, I don't like that change, talking about the amendments to the track. David said, I am not getting into that, and I'm not going to comment on it to anybody because I'm keeping a clear mind. It is what it is, and I'm going to drive what I've got to drive. And he went out there and in the last possible second put it on pole, and here he is putting in a storming drive. Great philosophy, great psychological outlook on things.
Yeah, absolutely, very pragmatic, and I think the right approach. However, as a Lime Rock enthusiast, I couldn't be as pragmatic as him, and I'd just be disappointed that I couldn't go whistling around the old West Bend and then onto the pit straight. Wouldn't be easy flat. I think it'd be more of a challenge, but that's just me.
There we see Timo Bernard stretching things out, and we get back to the patience that was displayed by his teammate Romain Dumas when he was mired back in about 5th, 6th spot. And now we look at the number 15 car. We believe they will be in great shape in terms of fuel, and that team was questioning why other teams didn't play the same strategy with so much caution out there. Chris, maybe that's the reason why.
Well, Cal, I've got Luis here, and you guys playing it conservative, filling up the 15 car. The other 4 cars out front, you think they can make it?
I don't know. I mean, I was even surprised that nobody came in with us, It seems to be that we're in a different strategy, and I mean, the Lowe's car is running strong. We hope we can make it to the end.
Well, they're definitely going to make it, and the car still looks perfect. I think the big question right now is the 4 lead cars, how much yellow do they need to make it?
Well, we know that Brabham and Masson, who currently run 3rd and 4th, made an extra stop, so they're in better fuel shape than the 20 and the 7 car that currently leads. So I'd say the big question mark right now will be the 7 car, the leader, and Butch Leitzinger. If anyone's going to ride, it would be those 2 boys.
The top 6 cars in the race are all P2 prototypes. Marco Werner is the best P1 and 7, then Clint Field, Best GT1 car, the 5-time series champion, Olivier Beretta. And then in GT2, it's Johannes van Overbeek. Here is your race leader, Timo Bernard. He knows how to lead, he knows how to win. Can he stay there with less than an hour to go here at Lime Rock? Next Sunday here on Speed. Back at it with the American Le Mans Series here at Lime Rock. And race leader Timo Bernard, he boasts almost a 2.1 second advantage over Butch Leitzinger. David Brabham is third, Sasha Masson is fourth, and Adrian Fernandez, the last car on the lead lap, is fifth at the moment.
He's really pulling a nice gap out on Butch and David right now. And yet there you see flashing the lights so that the traffic sees him coming. But you'd think if he was trying to save fuel, his pace wouldn't be this way. So maybe they realize they're out of the window to make it to the checkered flag here without another stop, and they just told him, go for it. Try and get as big a gap as you can.
There, of course, is a team car, the 6th car. That's Sasha Masson, who's in not as clean an air, working through traffic back in the back some.
Speaking of the 6, let's hear from the man who started this car. Brian?
Patrick Long had a great qualifying effort and a great first stint in the car, Patrick. And I know a lot of competition, not only on the racetrack, but amongst this team. To qualify ahead of Romain, what did that mean to you?
Set the pace in the ALMS for the last couple of years. I'm the new guy in the team, and every time I can put it on the grid a spot ahead of him or lead in the race, it feels really good. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't looking at that 7 car and being like, man, that's the rear of my car. How does it feel?
Great job in qualifying. Now let's talk about the competition on the racetrack. With the changes here, how difficult is it for you guys? You're one of the few that has GT experience and prototype experience. How difficult is it? We've seen several incidents down there in the uphill.
Yeah, the new chicanes have improved the safety a lot, and that's number one. But what it give a lot more room for accident. There's a lot of decreasing radiuses and narrowing of the track when we come into these chicanes. A lot of drivers have explained that they think they're Mickey Mouse. I know everybody's trying to do the same thing out there, so I respect Skip Barber and the Lime Rock guys for putting so much time and effort into this track. It's the same for everybody out there. I had a great time. There's a lot of dirt on the track. Not only are the chicanes tighter, but the cars were throwing lots of dirt onto the track. So there were a few times where I've never had this RS Spider that sideways, and it was certainly a lot of fun.
Well, great job. Hopefully you guys have the fuel to make it to the checkered flag.
Yes, the 6th car is the defending winner of this race, Sasha Masson, multi-time series champion. And you saw him run off at the top of the new West Bend door, so that was a hairy moment.
Yeah, and I think if we see that again, what has happened, let's look at this replay. One of the things they were told they cannot do is go to the inside of the tires that were put on the outside. Here's like a look first. Here he goes into the chicane. I think it's going to go wrong right here in the middle. He can't get a car turned, and see now he shortcuts the course. He should get a penalty for this.
Look at the dirt on the outside there. You can see why he had no grip when he suddenly got out wide. They're saying he didn't improve his position. However, his lap time probably improved by about 1.5 seconds. So it's a nice little move if you can get away with it.
Well, see, if you're leading, then you wouldn't improve your position, would you? You just keep going through this. I need to rethink that just a little bit.
Trust you to think of that.
I'd be the lead
Look
guy.
how dirty this racetrack is, Dorsey.
Yeah, and that's all that drop of wheels off and so forth. The GT cars, it doesn't affect it quite as bad, but boy, it's a dirty racetrack right now.
Let's talk about the 20 and the 9, Butch Leitzinger and David Brabham. Chris, you got more on these guys?
Lee, I just checked in with both teams, and both teams playing very coy right now, trying to keep their cards close to their chest. I asked them about the fuel situation, and both saying, yeah, we think we can make it. And so then I asked, well, how many cautions do you need? They said, well, you know, we're not quite sure right now, and we don't know if we can run full rich. So both teams kind of question whether they can make it, and if they can make it, can they run full boogie on the fuel too?
You see Brad had a good run, thought about going to the inside, but Butch had great entry speed to that corner, so that wasn't going to work. David has a lot of experience. He's not going to try and charge his way through here and make a big risk. He's still in the thick of this points battle. He and Scott Sharp currently second.
Yeah. Of course, Butch, too, here at Lime Rock, has been around here with many, many wins over the years.
Top 3 in the race are, in fact, the top 3 in the P2 Championship, but not in that order. It is Romain Dumas, Timo Bernard who lead the way over Brabham and Sharp, and then Leitzinger and Frank Kitty are third in P2. As we drift back to GT2, it's the 46 Flying Lizard Porsche of Johannes van Overbeek. Patrick Pilet did a good job in the opening stint, and they lead the sister car of Wolf Hensler and Jörg Bergmeister. And Dirk Muller is now third in GT2 over Dirk Werner, the pole-sitting car of Farnbacher Lowles and Jamie Mello, the defending champions, are now in the top 5 in that Risi Ferrari.
Talked to the Lizard boys right before the start of the race, and they said, you know, we had something wrong in qualifying. We found it, or we think we found it, and we think we're going to have a darn good race car. It looks like they did.
Wolf Hensler there, currently second with the yellow strip across the top. So hard to identify these cars. 3 Lizard cars this year, of course. And there you see Gilles de Ferran trying to make his way back after the off he had earlier. So the Lizard boys in very good shape. Remember, this class was dominated by the Ferraris last year. They looked unbeatable. Well, Porsche certainly have done their homework in the off-season and turned the tables on Ferrari, currently running 1, 2, and 3.
James, it's not easy for the GT competitors with the faster prototypes. Your thoughts on the conduct of the GT drivers so far?
Well, normally the boys in the GT cars are very, very good, and they've got as much right to be on the racetrack as the faster cars. The only time it's really difficult is when there's only one car wide, or you're tacking from one side of the road to the other. And that's very difficult for them because they don't know which side you're going to go. So if you're in an LMP1 car, the worst thing you can do is sheep worry the car in front. And if it goes left, you just keep following it everywhere. You've got to let the car in front take its line and then make your decision very decisively, and then it's fine.
It's an 8.5 second lead to Timo Bernard over this man here, David Brabham, who now sits second. This is how he made the pass on Butch Leitzinger. Let's take you back and show you how the Patron Highcroft driver did it.
Well, that's the classic out-braking maneuver, getting down in the Big Bend, turn 1. Got a good run down the hill. I'm sure he carried the draft all the way to the last minute, popped to the inside, and made the pass cleanly.
Key down there is the entry speed and just managing it once you get to the midpoint, because it's so dirty offline. We've seen several cars make a move, then fly off the racetrack. David did it perfectly.
We need to squeeze in another quick break. We want to say thank you very, very much to James Weaver. Lovely to see you. And are all the renovations done back home?
Yes, thank you. I'll find something else to do now.
We'll go and enjoy the rest of this race. We've still got just a little under 45 minutes. Thanks again, James. And we want to remind you that you can relive the excitement of last year's American Le Mans Series season with the 2007 Series Yearbook. It's available now. It's a collector's item, and it features more than 450 photographs. Log on today, AmericanLeMans.com, to order your copy. It is certainly a keeper. We're back at Lime Rock. Round 5 of the American Le Mans Series continues here on Speed, the Northeast Grand Prix. Very interesting to date, and we've got a race to the end, just a little over 40 minutes remaining. However, we're going under full course caution number 3. We will need to find out as race leader Timo Bernard slows dramatically. We understand there's debris on the front stretch heading towards turn 1, Big Bend.
I think there's debris everywhere on the racetrack right now. This is a very dirty racetrack. We'll take a look. It's probably something pretty big in size for them to pull out the caution. The whole racetrack is very dirty from all the drivers dropping wheels and the wrecks we've seen so far today, boys.
With 42 minutes left, I mean, I think a good track cleanup would be beneficial to everyone. I think it'll make a better event. We're going to see less potential cautions before the end of this. So try and get those blowers out there and try and sweep off that offline stuff, because it's getting ugly. And if we start to see cars go side by side, it's going to be a big issue. And this may be the type of scenario that may get Penske back into their pit window for fuel.
Hey guys, while we were away, the 26 car came in and they had to blow out the radiators, and what came out of those radiators was that paper mache type material they laid down where they put grass seed down to keep the seed down. So interestingly enough, we're going to have to probably watch some other cars out there. Do we see some other overheating issues? And some of these cars that are trying to stretch some of their fuel and run a little bit leaner, are we going to see overheating by those cars?
Well, we watched yesterday as they sprayed that out there, Calvin, and that was what Skip Barber was talking about when he said, I'm not standing on green grass yet. This is a park. He wants it to have green grass. That was all sprayed out there yesterday, and it is part paper, and it's got fertilizer and grass seed, so that radiator will be like a chia pet by the time you get back home.
I bet I can put some on the top of my head.
All right, let's take a look at this. Watch the Risi Ferrari as it just bulldozes its way through at the new uphill section.
Skip won't be pleased with that. That's hundreds of dollars of grass seed right there. And that one will also become a chia pet. It'll look like it's got a mustache.
Jamie Mello and Mika Salo, boy, they have had a disastrous season over here. Won the trophy over in Le Mans, which is great, but their ALMS season has been an ultimate disaster. Started at Sebring, where Jamie made that banzai move down in the hairpin. They haven't recovered since. Spoke to Jamie this week, Lee and I, and he said it was great to visit the Ferrari factory and how pumped up they were. They got their Grand Prix program going on, but Le Mans was very important to them.
From the president of Ferrari down, he said he was overwhelmed. He spent a week in Italy after Le Mans, and he said he was overwhelmed. He said, yeah, I know that they know it's going on and this is a program, but he said, I didn't know how interested they really were, including the president of Ferrari. And he said it was very humbling, and it made me walk away with such a feeling of pride and put a skip in my step for the rest of the ALMS season. However, it is not going to plan here today. The 62 Ricci Ferrari is in the top 5. However, time is running out. Less than 40 minutes to run in this 2 3/4 hour race. Round 5 of the 2008 ALMS here on Speed. Your 4 class leaders, Bernard, Werner, Beretta, and Van Overbeek, having a great run for his beloved Flying Lizard. Under caution again here at Lime Rock for debris on the racetrack. However, we are ready to go green. Thankfully, lights are out on the pace car. Timo Bernard leads this field. What's David Brabham got for him? There he is. About 5 cars back in the order. However, second in this motor race. You hear the call for green, green, green. Let's go.
There you see that green and blue Patron car thick in the pack there. David has to clear this traffic as fast as he can and get his sights on that yellow Penske machine out front, driven by Timo Bernard.
There's traffic to get through. It's Marco Werner first. Wow, problems here for Johannes Van Overbeek, the GT2 class leader.
Yeah, he has had a problem indeed.
Down the inside and forced corner open and knocked it off. Copy that. Just get rejoined. Let me know how the car is.
Well, what he's reporting there is that someone got inside of Werner.
He said Wolf. I think he said Wolf got down the inside and pushed me out wide. So that's his teammate. That will not go well down well in the transporter tonight.
I'd be a little uneasy about that myself.
End of the first flying lap. Let's get a check, a time check for you. Bernard to Brabham, first to second. And it is 2.3 seconds for David Brabham. That's what he needs to catch up. Getting by Werner, getting by Montagny, who are lapped cars, and then attacking the race leader. Let's take you back and show you what went down with the teammates. Oh, it's not teammates, it's the 87.
Yeah.
Boy, and you see him climb up over the tire and get some air there. Lucky.
Werner, Dirk Werner, gets into the side of Johannes Van Overbeek.
Van Overbeek must have had a very poor restart because he was being driven down the inside up by 2 cars there, so he didn't get the start he was looking for. Wolf was way to the inside, clear of everything, and Werner just tagged him.
Car looks in pretty good shape. I think that right front might be a little low. We'll watch that in a minute. There's a pretty good hit there. There's the damage to the back end. Werner's car.
So while the Porsches fight, the winner has been the Ferrari driver Dirk Muller. 2 times a race winner this year. Muller is now up into second, into third. I take that back. And Wolf Hensler is the new class leader.
Now here you see.
That's Adrian Fernandez working on Sasha Masson.
Again, Adrian took tires as well, so he's got good, fresh Michelin rubber. Sasha, of course, stopped quite some time ago, hoping to stretch his fuel, just like David Brabham, till the end of this one. And again, we talk about when they stop, but also what is the fuel efficiency between the Acura and the Porsche? There may be some differences there. Also, when they lean them out, which engine has the most effect by doing that?
Unlike last year, Adrian Fernandez did not compete at this year's 24 Hours of Le Mans. Stayed back here, and the Lowe's Fernandez team did a test at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Don't forget that is coming up. That is the next round of the American Le Mans Series at Mid-Ohio.
Of course, part of what you're seeing right here is what we're talking about with the Green Challenge. The ability to turn down the fuel to get the best fuel mileage and the best performance at the same time, Calvin.
That's right, and these teams have worked at it normally just for performance. Now there's an award for being the best. So Adrian Fernandez said he had a little bit of family time. New baby boy in the family, so that was great to have this break in the American Le Mans Series schedule for him, but now it's full attack mode for the rest of the season. These boys are going to be busy over the next few months.
coming off somewhat of a high at Salt Lake City where they led 25 laps in Utah. That was a real high point for the Lowe's Fernandez team, but getting about it here. Adrian is maintaining a top 5 position. This is the team that in their maiden season in American Le Mans Series racing stood on the podium 3 times in class. They'd like to do it more in season 2008. That battle continues for 4th spot. And the lead now has grown to 3.2 seconds. Has the Patron Highcroft Acura of David Brabham got anything for the Penske Porsche of Timo Bernard? Final 32 minutes when we come back. Part ownership of that team and 2-time AMA Superbike champion young Ben Spies, who has a massive lead, and he's going for championship number 3. Speaking of going for championships, that's exactly what Porsche driver Timo Bernard and Ramad Dumas are doing here in P2, just flashing the GT2 cars up ahead and saying, hey, I'm in a race here. I've only got 5 seconds over David Brabham. I need to keep pushing and pushing hard. While we're in the break, Brabham had a nervous moment. This is a nervous moment here for Bernard.
Whoa, that was really tight there. He thought about it, and here comes Montani trying to get his lap back. This could be critical for the AGR car. Frank there down to the inside, and Timo doesn't give it to him. Very aggressive driving there. Think about this. This is the championship leader. How important is it for him to defend that from the 26 machine?
Yeah, I don't understand that at all either, because if I was at 26, I would have probably loosened him up a little bit there.
The other thing you got to wonder about, guys, is I checked with that team about the fuel that's in that number 7 car, and there's not much of it at all. So the question is, why not just let him go? Anytime you come off the throttle, you're going to be saving a little bit of fuel. I think they need to save every drop that's in that Porsche RS Spyder right now.
While we're away in the break, a report from race control, stop-and-go penalty for the 87 of Dirk Werner. Remember on the last restart where he hit Johannes van Overbeek? Avoidable contact, it was deemed. This is what happened with Brabham.
David Brabham gets to the outside of the left-hander entry and couldn't get the car to turn and is off. No spin.
Cost him a couple of seconds there. The gap was up to over 5. Now he's got that back down to 3.2 as Timo fights his way through this thick and heavy traffic.
Bernard, Brabham, Leitzinger, Masson, Fernandez. Nothing has changed in that top 5. Lead P1 car is Marco Werner. Then Frank Montagnier, as you just saw, fighting so desperately to try and get on the lead lap. There's the XM Satellite Acura just up ahead of Brabham.
We talk about the Porsches, the 2-car Dyson entry, the 2-car Penske entry, the Acura's 4 single-car entries. Will Montani try and help out David Brabham's course here? He lets him go.
You don't want to hold Brabham up.
There's your answer.
Let him go.
Yeah, and there's the call, too.
Well, the Acura brothers working together.
For Timo, though, why is he driving so aggressively if he might be running out of fuel? Oh, look at that little handshake.
I'm excited to find out who we'll see in the Andretti Green Acura over the next few rounds. Will we see people like Tony Kanaan, maybe Rafael Matos in that car? And, of course, Marco Andretti returning as well.
Yeah, it will certainly be interesting. The next event, of course, at Mid-Ohio, that's a double-header, so they have the pick of the crop there. The IRL boys are there. It's like they may be tripping each other up to see who can jump in this car. They all love driving it. It's got so much downforce. It's a really quick race car.
Fernandez is getting frustrated by the traffic. He wants to get through. He wants to continue this fight and this chase with Sacha Masson.
Lee, big problems for the Lowe's car, the car we knew that could make it the distance on fuel, having an electrical problem right now. The past 3 laps going down the front straightaway. Big miss from that Acura power plant right now. They're telling Adrian to reset the ECU. He's done that every time going down the front straightaway, and it doesn't look like it's curing itself, but they're saying, Adrian, stay out as long as you can.
And that's why he's having such a horrible time trying to get by this GT2 car. And the ECU, of course, is the electronic control unit. By turning it off and on, it resets itself if that's the problem. Apparently, it is not the problem.
We just heard it going by our booth. Definitely not running on all cylinders, so problems there, and that is going to hurt their cause. They were in good shape fuel-wise, as Chris said, and this victory could have come their way, but they need to have a strong race car and keep it towards the front.
Talking GT2 for a sec, there's a healthy lead for Wolf Hensler over Johannes van Overbeek. As we go to the break with the 4 respective class leaders, it's looking good for Timo. David Brabham said earlier this weekend, we are in a championship chase. We are in a championship fight, and that's exactly what he's in right now. Look at Timo Bernard. He's caught in traffic in the 7, and Brabham has reduced that lead margin from some 5+ seconds down to 1.5. It is on at the front of this race.
Timo is really frustrated. Sorry, Cal. Timo on the radio a moment ago just screaming that he's getting held up
by this Audi, and that is Marco Werner, who just got his lap back. He is on the lead lap, just in front of the leader right there. Timo Bernhard is saying in the twisty stuff, he is faster. He wants by Werner again.
Well, let's enjoy the pictures and let's go down to pit lane with Brian Till. He is with Brabham's teammate.
Scott Sharp looking at the monitors right now, watching the race. I know you'd rather be watching that than talking to me, Scott, but right now, the battle on the racetrack, it's about speed, but it's also about fuel. Do you guys have it to make enough to make it to the end?
I think we'll know when the checker flag drops. But David's doing a great job. Really, the team's done a great job all weekend. We unloaded really well with the Patron High Cross. It's pretty exciting for the final run here.
You certainly spent enough time at Lime Rock, but this is a very different track this year. As far as the traffic goes, where can you use it to get the pick that you need to get by, especially in the Acura?
You know, obviously we have a really great downforce and cornering speed and great braking. So I think the important part is you got to get the traffic and get people between you. You can't let the traffic get between us right now and the Penske car. So David's pretty aggressive. He'll shove it in there, I'm sure.
You heard him, pretty aggressive, and I think that's exactly what he's doing right now. Lee?
Well, I'll tell you, the traffic didn't help him a moment ago.
No, I think David used his experience there. It was like a roadblock there momentarily through that very corner. Let's take another look at this. He was right side by side with Timo just a few feet before it. Watch the action here. David looks to the left. Then there's traffic up ahead. The 11 Viper and also the Porsche of Werner.
And Timo up the middle gets through, and the door closes right there. And, you know, there's no way you're going to go through that.
David said, I don't want any part of that. That needs to sort itself out, and I'll go chase him again.
So the margin was 1.5 seconds, boys. Let's check it now. It has grown to 3.1. Brian.
More drama for Johannes van Overbeek. He's come to pit road. They've added some oil in the back with one of their pressurized canisters. But, come to the front of the car, and here's where the problem is, boys. Fluid underneath the front of it. It looks like we've got a whole radiator on the number 46. Van Overbeek, this is going to be a long fix here on pit road.
That doesn't surprise me, Brian. We're looking at the pictures out there on the racetrack. There's all sort of debris and rocks and gravel and whatnot.
We're going to keep running. We're going to keep running.
He took that big hit, remember, from Dirk Werner down in turn 1, and there's radiators wrapped all the way around the front of those Porsches, so they're very susceptible to that type of hit. Pretty trick system now on these Flying Lizards, we understand. They're pressure censored on the air jack, so actually when the car goes down, it actually fires the engine up immediately. The driver doesn't have to do it. So these drivers and teams just thinking of every way to try and save a split second in a pit stop.
You see them right there filling up whatever it is that's leaking. I think it would be coolant. They're going to pressurize the system. This must be a slow leak, because you heard them say we're going to go on or not.
Yeah, it's definitely coolant. It's actually water. They can't run antifreeze in a race car. Dorsey, as you well know, it makes it very slick in case the radiator leaks, but definitely adding water to the 46, sending him back out. And if you look at the pit spot where he was, a couple of big puddles up front.
Oh, look at it, Calvin. That is not going to work. That's a big leak.
Disaster.
Unless that was in the fender well, just dripped in the fender well the whole time.
Good point. There may be just be an overflow there, and but water down by that radiator is not a good sign by any stretch of the imagination. You see it coming out still.
Not helping the right front tire get any traction, I guarantee you that.
Now, a quick reminder for you, the American Le Mans Series has a return visit to the very fast and very competitive Mid-Ohio Sports Car course, as we mentioned earlier. It's next weekend for the Acura Sports Car Championship, and you can see the action on NBC Sports Sunday, July 20. That will be fantastic. ALMS at Mid-Ohio. Don't miss it. Back at Lime Rock, back with the American Le Mans Series, and back with David Brabham in the Patron Highcroft Acura, continuing to chase Timo Bernhard 3.2 seconds up the road.
Traffic playing a huge factor in that gap. They seem wide again, Dorsey. He had to struggle for grip. You could listen. The engine note just died because he had to get out of the gas.
It's just almost a one-lane racetrack because of the dirtiness on the outside, Calvin. You get out there, you're just as stuck as you can be. You can't get the car to turn, stop, or anything. So
Pressure's on Butch Leitzinger here, Dors. Take a look at this. Masson has bridged that gap. There's nothing between these boys. This is the fight for third. Wonderful podium at Sebring, the 12-hour classic at the beginning of the year for Butch Leitzinger and Marino Franchitti. And now they're looking for another podium, but Butch has a fight on his hands for that final step on the podium.
Sasha won here last year with Ryan Briscoe, of course, one of the few events that the 7 car didn't seem to win last year, so he knows how to win here, and he wants that top spot. He and Pat Long looking for their first victory.
Hey, wouldn't it be something for Butch to get the Dyson car on the podium at all? I mean, that would be just fantastic on this 25th anniversary of that team.
We just checked the notes here and the timing and scoring, and the difference in when the 2 leaders pitted. Timo Bernhard pitted 8 laps sooner than David Brabham. Those laps are run under caution, typically half that in terms of mileage, so he's got about 4 more green flag laps under his belt. This battle for the final spot on the podium is intense.
I think Sasha woke old Butch up, don't you see?
Yeah.
He's taking off now.
You can see there, just over 17.5 minutes remain in this race. So we're in the closing stages.
Great to see Dyson now running a bit more on par with the Penske group. Last year, they looked really strong on their outing at Sebring, but then kind of lost their way, couldn't get a handle on this chassis. I believe they've got a little bit more support from Porsche in terms of the engineering support on the car, and they're really starting to turn things around and understand what makes this car tick.
A little encouragement there from the boss. It's always good to hear as your driver, when you got your head down, you're giving it your all, to have somebody get you on the phone and say, you're doing a good job, man, you can get him, go get him.
Well, speaking of the boss, let's hear from him.
Well, Rob Dyson looked at the numbers. It's pretty impressive, including 160,000 plus race miles this team has had since '83. Professional racing right now, it's all about speed, but it's about fuel mileage. Do you guys have it?
I think so, yes.
It took a while.
I think so, yes.
He's waiting for the next question. Very short answers here by Rob Dyson. Normally you talk a lot more than that, Rob. The performance of this team right now, the 20 car, your lone bullet in the gun right now. Very impressive drive by both Butch Leitzinger and Marino Franchitti. Right now, the traffic on this racetrack is more of a challenge than it's ever been in the past.
Absolutely. I think you can get held up for a longer period of time behind slower traffic. And if you don't, that's why Guy went so hard, is he knew that if he was behind that Porsche, he'd lose sight of the leaders. And he pushed it a little bit too far. A driver's mistake. But with Butch, he's got a lot of experience on this track. Admittedly, the configuration is a little bit different. Hopefully he can stay ahead and we can get a good finish.
Rob Dyson, usually not at a loss for words, but that fuel mileage question, guys, that was a very short answer. I think so.
Doesn't want to give the game away. It's going to be nip and tuck here. Those final few leaders will be precious, that's for sure. Looking for their 62nd victory, 61 wins, 17 championships along those 25 years, Dawes.
And I agree with what Rob said, that this new configuration of racetrack can trap you behind slower cars longer because you're in a lower speed and you can't get back up to speed, and it's segmented more than it used to be.
And that's what happened. The battle first to second. Brabham got caught in traffic, and a 1.5 second lead blew out now to 9.2 seconds. As far as GT1 is concerned, the 3 is in front. Johnny O'Connell, he and Jan Magnussen have won 3 of the races this year to the 1 of the 2 Ollies.
But that car's only made 1 pit stop so far, so does it have to make another?
Just checked in with Doug Feehan down at Corvette Racing. Here's the deal. Right now, the 4 car, Ollie Beretta, having a gearbox problem. They've got low pressures in the box right now, so he's having problems. They're having to nurse that. That's why he came to pit road a short time ago. The 3 car with Johnny O'Connell in it needs about 5 seconds of fuel if it stays green. They're praying for a yellow. 1 lap of yellow, Doug Feehan said, will get the 3 car to the end. If they don't get that yellow, expect to see him on pit road very late in the going to get that splash of fuel.
What a change of momentum this year between the 3 and the 4 car. Last year, the 3 car just couldn't catch a break. Now they've got 3 out of the 4 race victories this year. Could be on their way to their 4th. And Johnny O'Connell said We basically need to win more than half of them. That will give us the championship.
Yeah, and it'll be an incredible comeback because the 4 car has won for the last 3 years in succession GT1 competition in the American Le Mans Series. A little under 15 minutes to go. Stick around. Stay with us to the checkered flag. Racing hard to the checkered flag. Timo Bernard in his Penske Porsche, driving brilliantly up front. The 3 is in. You heard the boys say, one last splash for fuel for Johnny O. Where does it rejoin in relation to the sister car, the 4? Look at this. They love racing each other. This is so intense. And they come side by side, door to door through Big Bend.
Oh, he's all wide, the 4 car. Galvin almost goes off. Good save.
Great job there by Johnny O'Connell. He knew he was coming there. The good news is Johnny had hot tires. There was no tire change, so he had good grip immediately. Danny Binks and the boys just topped him up with fuel, and he would have been aware of that big yellow machine coming down quickly.
Johnny says, no, it's my turn. I'm not giving that to you.
Good stuff. I spoke to John.
Have you within 2 seconds of them when you go by.
Beretta does not sound happy in that car.
He does not.
Having some sort of a gearbox problem. They're talking about low pressures, which I assume is the pressure of the coolant of the oil that's in the gearbox. So maybe problems there.
You got to make up 1.3. He's on cold tires. You can do it, man.
He's not on cold tires.
Yeah,
he's lying to him. It's not on cold tires.
Change tires. So Johnny O'Connell stated, he said, forget Aston Martin not being here with the factory squad. When we beat the 4 car, we realize we've beat the best in the business, and that is our challenge, and those are our goals.
Now up front, Timo Bernard has lost a considerable amount of time. Maybe traffic, who knows, but it's down to 3.5 seconds now. His lead with 10 minutes, 50 seconds to run.
It's definitely doable.
Now down to 1.9 seconds. Here comes Brabham.
This lap may be telltale. There doesn't seem to be no traffic immediately in front of him. If we get a good clean lap, let's see who has the pace and forget the traffic.
Watch our lap times, lap speeds this time. Now the 4 car's in. That's kind of a shame. It needs oil in the gearbox. It's out. It's not showing anything. So.
Well, Dorsey, you were spot on listening to the scanners. You're obviously listening to them too. Gearbox, it just needs oil. They've had this pressure problem, so they need to get some oil in it. Beretta, very disappointed. You guys heard him on the radio. Now it's on. I race now.
Go.
Very disappointed. The lead now easily handed to Johnny O'Connell.
You see Beretta coming out there. You see David Brabham. He lost quite a bit of ground on that last lap. Now down to 2.8 seconds. But it was 1.9 on the previous lap, so traffic at the top of the hill caught David Brabham out there, and he's just being very careful, threading his way through traffic here, Dorsey.
And for Brabs, he cannot be frustrated by that, because what you think when you're doing this is, well, okay, I got cut off like this time, let's have Timo get cut off next time, you know? It can happen.
What are the team telling him about the fuel situation with this car? We know that he has 8 laps more on this tank of fuel. Now, a bunch of those are under caution, but then it comes down to the fuel efficiency, Porsche versus Acura. I'm sure the Highcroft team will be working the numbers, trying to tell David, listen, that car in front of you may be in trouble fuel-wise.
And what you would want to do is get up there, catch him up again, and make him use that fuel. Push him hard.
It's just a rubber band effect. Now it blows out to 5.2 seconds. So all of a sudden, with 9 minutes left, the task gets a whole lot harder. And Timo Bernard, Romain Dumas are looking for yet another win. The only car to defeat them this year in P2 is the car that's chasing them down, of Scott Sharp and David Brabham. That magnificent first win for Highcroft, for Patron Highcroft at Long Beach earlier this year.
Of course, here's your problem. You've got Brabs coming. You see him right there, and he's coming on strong. So for Timo, they can't call him and say, hey, turn down the power. You're using too much fuel. You're going to run out, because if he turns it down at all, that green and black machine is going to be all over him. I guess it's black and blue.
Green and blue, that's what you're trying to say.
We know you're colorblind. You did know what the green flag and checkered flag were, though. When we come back, it's the race to that very flag. Stay with us. Incredible cars. Tomorrow at 9 p.m. Eastern, 101 cars you must drive. Brian, what do you have?
Guys, just checked in with Jeff Swartout and the boys at the number 7 Penske RS Spider about fuel, and they said right now it's not really about how far we can go, but the pace that we can run, and what we're pacing ourselves off of is that 9 car. So we're just trying to save as much fuel and keep the margin where it is. If the margin starts to go down and we start using too much fuel to stay in front, that's when we may be in really big trouble. But right now, it's still going to be extremely close.
Check this out. Check this out. It is on the front. Less than 6 minutes to go. This is for the lead of the motor race. You ride with Brabham. Timo Bernard dives to the inside at Big Bend.
He knew he was under pressure, Dorsey. He took that inside line. He didn't want to give it to David Brabham. When you start doing that, you lose lap time. Timo Bernard feeling the pressure from Brabs, the pole sitter, coming back.
And it's all about traffic. That's what set that all up, and traffic ahead. The Ferrari is not going to give way. No, he does.
It was late in the race at Long Beach when Brabham stole the win away from Romain Dumas. He's fighting the same car right now, but he needs to get by this Ferrari quickly. He does, but Timo has escaped.
Well, Brabs lifted a little bit early, so he timed that out. Brabs escaped, or he didn't escape. He's going to catch him back up, I believe.
So critical, the GT line on the uphill. If they cut over to the right-hand side, it absolutely destroys the prototype's momentum. That Ferrari got out of the way. The previous lap, David Brabham got broke there.
Go get him.
Robin Hill on the radio saying, go get him, mate.
The Flying Lizard Porsche stays wide. Good work. Good heads-up driving. The pressure here is on Timo Bernard, the defending P2 champion.
Well, it's so important to look ahead, try to time out where you're going to catch these cars, try to lift when you can so you don't get balked. Oh, here's going to be a balk through here.
David just caught this traffic in all of the wrong spots here, but it comes back to you. You just got to be patient and hope that the leader gets the same problem and you get that disadvantage back.
Final 4.5 minutes. Can Bernard hang on?
Mixture 5, go get him, go get him.
Oh boy, give it to power now, turn it up.
Look how smooth this front straightaway is now, Dorsey. They'd have been bouncing around last year like you wouldn't believe. This racetrack had gotten so rough. Now it's super smooth, got a lot of grip. But again, data. These teams do not have a lot of data. How is the car going to respond late in the going here?
And hats off to the guys that laid this pavement. Skip Barber has not come up. It has not come up. The track is held. It has a lot of grip, and now traffic right in front.
Oh, you just got to stay in front of him. Stay in front of him.
Words to Timo Bernard. The fight is on further back as well. Butch Leitzinger fending off the challenge from Sasha Masson for the final step on the podium. So both Penske Porsches involved in fierce battles. Oh. Brabham pushes his way through, coming through the downhill.
Timo got pinched there as well. He would have lost momentum in the downhill.
Dorsa, the teams radioing these cars and saying, look, the leaders are coming through. Give way to them.
Oh, and the 20s in the tire. Well, Butch Leitzinger's had a moment here and could, if he doesn't get going, bring out a caution. We don't want that. 3 minutes to go.
See the dust off to the outside. If he got forced wide, he would have understeered straight in there. Did Sasha Masson force the issue? Meanwhile, up front, the other Penske Porsche. Timo Bernard continues to lap. Brabham's in traffic again.
Brabham's really getting held up here.
Coming up, there's Bernard. There's Bernard going through. And there they go through the traffic. Let's have a look at what happened to Leitzinger. Did Sasha Masson have anything to do with it?
Yes,
you bet he did.
He pushed him right on over there. Loosened him up, and around goes Butch. He didn't hit that tire wall, though, but he did spin him.
Sometimes it's so hard to get these gearboxes engaged in reverse gear, Dawson. I think that's what's maybe going on with Butch there. He's got it nosed in the tires, and he can't get it backed up.
Rob Dyson is not at all pleased.
He wanted that podium badly. I mean, and there's some trouble right there back in the back part, too.
Talking with the IMSA official. 2 minutes to go in this race. Leitzinger is up and running again. But it is too little, too late. Will there be any disciplinary action for Sasha Masson?
Again, now you get the whole picture. Sasha gets a run up the uphills, moves to the inside, and there It gets tight. Oh, and he does definitely just clip him around.
Word from race control. Stop and go for the 6. Oh, and Brabham gets the lead. And Timo Bernard spins. Timo Bernard spins at turn 1, and Brabham is the new race leader.
Start it up, bud. Start it up. Start it up.
Championship leader Tim Cindric on the radio saying, start it up, start it up. There's other cars coming. David Brabham, what a move. Can the local team bring it home here?
They snatched the pole in the most dramatic of fashion yesterday with 1 minute, 15 seconds to go. The Danbury, Connecticut-based team is in the lead of this race.
You have to assume traffic helped that. We'll take a look here at the replay how this happened. Timo had a pretty good lead. Let's see what happens.
How about that?
Timo defends to the inside. David Jinks to the outside. He's got big momentum. There was the traffic a factor. Timo late on the brakes on the shallow angle, and David just swipes across his brow. Timo loses it.
Wow.
This is how it looked for Timo Bernard.
Well, he sees he's got to run on him. Watch now. Here comes Brabs up the outside. It forced him to get on the brake really hard, which spun the car, but he would have hit the back of Brabs if he didn't.
That was a one-on-one fight. Brabham saying, you may be a young gun and very fast, but I'm the Brabham.
Remember what he said in his pre-race interview. He said, I have a very clear mind about what my objective is. He did it in qualifying. He's doing it in the race.
Masson serving his penalty. The stop and go for collision, unavoidable collision. But what about this? He has got 1 to go for David Brabham. This is incredible, just incredible.
We're on the yellow short shifted.
If he only could have slowed up 3 seconds, he would have got the checker. Now he's on the top leanest mixture he's got. He could run out of fuel.
Remember, he's got a little bit more fuel though, Dorsey. He stopped a little bit later. He did that second stop under caution. That could be the cushion he needs.
It's Long Beach all over again. Not quite as dramatic, but almost.
He said run it like under caution. Just don't use fuel.
Heck off, David. David, you gotta go. We gotta save fuel, David. We have to save fuel.
Now he doesn't because he can coast.
He's got time.
Give him more information, though. He needs to know the gap. He can use his mirrors, but you do want to be taken advantage of his downhill from here, Dorsey. Can he coast?
Yeah, he could coast it if he needs to. No question about that.
Timo's a long way. He's half a lap behind. That was the panic from the crew. You don't need to push. You got a big lead. Just bring it home.
He's going to be okay. The checkered flies. The Patron Highcroft team do it. Pole position and the victory. Duncan Dayton.
Second win of the year. This championship is anything but over. Don't have it to Penske yet.
Saw Duncan last night. I told him, great job for the pole. He said, I had nothing to do with it.
Awesome job.
GT2 Wolf Hensler brings it home. That helps their championship chase as well. But dramatic scenes for Patron Highcroft and David Brabham and Scott Sharp. We'll hear from them when we come back. There may have been a 7-week break in the American Le Mans Series schedule, but it returned with explosive style, just like David Brabham, the Class Le Mans victory, pole, and the win here. Let's hear from the man.
David Brabham right now getting congratulations from the Michelin Man. And David, not only a spectacular race and great fuel conservation, but you look back to the beginning, the penalty that you guys avoided, and you look back on it now. That's the difference in this victory.
Oh man, it was what a race. I'm exhausted. I mean, I just put everything into it, but you know, I mean, fantastic strategy by the Patron Highcroft team. It was fantastic, absolutely spot on. The car was really good. When the track was not so dusty, the car was really hooked up, and I really felt I had a car underneath me to win. The Michelin tires really hung in there really well all the way. So fantastic to come here, home race for the Patron Highcroft team, and to win is awesome.
And the first overall victory for the P2 Acura. An outstanding performance. Let's hear from the driver he beat.
What happened down in turn 1?
I mean, it started earlier. I had a few car lengths ahead of him, like 4 or 5, and then I caught traffic in that very tight chicane in corner 7, and 2 quite slow cars, and they were also struggling on the dirt, so they really had to slow down, and I caught them, and I saw him from the back coming, and just on the exit he had more momentum, and then on that front straight he overtook me. I went to the inside, and he was on the outside, but he had more momentum. He passed me on the outside. Then I tried to dive in on the inside, but he was also late on the brake, and he chopped me a little bit to the inside, and I was braking and steering at the same time, and I spun. But I had to try it. I cannot just let him by.
The P2 cars may not have had it their own way if things were different for Audi. Brian Till is standing by with Marco Werner.
Marco Werner, Lucas Luhr take the win in P1 again. But Marco, I think this is a track that you guys looked at and said, with all these slow corners, we may be able to win another one overall. What kept you guys back?
I mean, we have it in our hand, but that was not our race. But the pace was there. But there are so many things happened in the race what was against us. Without that, we can have easy an overall win. Now it's just an LMP1 class win. That's quite okay. Thanks to the guys, thanks to Audi. Looking forward to the next one.
They'll take the class win and the points. Congratulations, guys.
Speaking of classes, let's talk GT2. The fight there was spectacular. It was brutal, making the win all the more pleasurable for Flying Lizards.
Well, it's the second win in a row for the 45, and Wolf, you guys had a great day out there. A day you had to be perfect. There's not a mark on this Porsche.
No, for sure there's not any mark on this Porsche, and Jörg did a fantastic job in the beginning, and he gave me the car in a very good condition and position, and at the end we had a 1 lap or 2 lap lead, and so I only had to do is carry the car home and finish on the first place. I also want to say thank you to our sponsors, Shortell and eSilicon, and our partners Porsche and Michelin.
That team is incredibly strong, just like Corvette Racing. And how about the battle between the sister cars? It went all the way to the end. Another win for Johnny O.
Yeah, and Magnussen and Johnny O'Connell come away with the GT1 win. Johnny, tell us about that coming out of pit lane next to the 4-car.
Well, you know, how exciting can it be? You know, these cars, we are racing so hard. You know, you got to thank everyone at CompuWare, 885 that support us. But you know, Jan, you got to get Jan in here. You know, we both push so hard, and you know, you got to really give credit to everybody that's associated with Corvette Racing, Doug Fian, Steve Weslowski, and of course Gary Pratt. You know. The objective is always at Lime Rock to bring 2 cars home, and we were successful at doing that. There's we got a big race again next weekend, and so we're going to be in position to get that one too.
Outstanding performance, wasn't it? We are fast approaching the halfway point of the 2008 American Le Mans Series. Next up is next week at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. You can see that on NBC Sports, and then we fast forward to Elkhart Lake and then Mosport up in Canada. What a day for the local team from Danbury. Patron Highcroft Racing, Scott Sharp and David Brabham, first overall win for Acura, and they did it in the most spectacular style. We'll see you next time.